Yeah.
You guys were outside yesterday. Oh.
Huh? Huh?
You guys were outside yesterday.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
were.
we were.
It was the
It was the
26th.
26th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we live.
Okay, we live.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Perfect. That
Perfect.
TV is
That's
good.
good. Having a little headache. Feeling cold.
Oh, you got a
Oh, you
cold,
got a
man?
cold, man? Yeah, I got a cold. The rain been falling here all the time. Going home back and forth. Yeah. It's causing me headache.
Well,
Well,
gentlemen,
gentlemen,
welcome to the
welcome to the club.
Henry. You know,
Henry,
style of
style of
music.
music.
So
So
I
we
hear
are here,
guys.
guys.
Christian,
Christian,
be here.
be
Christian
here.
Rob,
Around
we
with our
action-packed
pack
program today.
program today.
Be a lot
Be a
going on
lot going on. Let's
about
talk about
war and
war
economic.
and economic.
Professor Larry
Professor
Kennedy
Larry Kennedy
leading this
leading
show,
this show,
asking the question
asking the
one
question,
about
one
one of
about finance.
Robert
What
Gabo,
God,
Profile
what
Jew,
about you?
Julian
Julian Shaw,
Benson.
Benson.
Henry,
Henry,
you got
she
picture.
got picture.
Give a lot of
There's a
ego.
lot of ego. From my end, I think it's okay though.
No.
No.
When I talk, I
When
can
I
hear.
talk, I can hear.
Hello?
Hello?
Okay.
Okay. It's better?
No, I can still
No, I
hear.
can still hear my.
So,
So,
hello?
better?
Yeah, I still
Yeah,
hear.
I still hear. Oh.
Yeah. Welcome.
Welcome.
Christian Roberts.
Christian Roberts.
Comfort Zone.
Comfort Zone.
Philip Catty watching from London. 1212.
I think it's much better.
1212.
1212.
I shouldn't be
I
hearing
shouldn't be
echo.
hearing echo. Still giving echo?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could all can come back in, so I don't know what it's me. Let somebody else come. Maybe when Professor comes, we will. I see him trying to log in. I mean, I could back and try to get back.
Yeah, I'm trying to die and see what happens.
Yeah, it's still getting back. Let me see. So, guys, welcome. Please share the show. Professor, welcome.
Yep, quick sound check. Doc, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Claire.
Very nice. Henry, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing okay, sir. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good, buddy. Happy Friday to you, man.
Great.
Same from my end.
Yes, sir. So we're going to have a great show today. These guys over a closing argument, they lost their mind. They decided to make me the host today. So I don't know what's wrong with them, Henry. They sat together, drank some palm wine, and said, let's make this guy the host. So it's Friday. Who knows what's going to happen?
We know you're going to do a great job, Professor. We know that. That's why we selected.
That's the leadership comes with responsibility. So you got to take on the responsibility on tonight. Start from right here.
Yeah.
Right. Hopefully, by the time the show is over, nobody will be declaring war on anybody.
Yeah.
So we what do we have today, Doc? What are we doing, man?
It's all in your hand. We're talking about the World Economic Chronicle. We're talking about Liberia. We're talking about everything that's happening in Liberia. So everything.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah,
it's gonna be good. In fact, so we have several guests popping in today. So I want everybody to share the show. I normally don't do this, so it's a privilege for the folks at the closing argument to kind of tell me, to come in here and do this thing. So I'm going to try not to embarrass the program, but I'm going to try to do a great show. I hope you guys don't mind every now and then if I put on an instructor's hat and kind of I'm not going to lecture, but I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. So what are we going to expect? Well, we're going to kick off the show by having a conversation with Lucky Shanko. So Lucky Shanko, his background with music, his background with football. We're just going to shoot the breeze for a little bit, talk with Lucky Shanko. And then after you guys, after everybody food have digested, then we will bring in, we'll talk about the hearing over at the war. It's mainly more of a war crimes court. I'm not going to jump into the economic side of things, but it's going to be more about the war crimes court. And this is important. I want you guys to share this show because we're going to be discussing a lot of stuff. And a whole lot of people may be happy. A whole lot of people will not be happy. But we're going to bring on board Councillor Jaywe. He's going to tell you what he's up to. We're going to bring aboard Massa Washington. She's going to share her experience. We're going to talk a little bit about Alan White. We're going to talk a little bit about Michael Rubin. We're going to talk a little bit about Alan Smith. These are the folks who are testifying. But the whole theme is going to be, what are we looking at here with this war crimes court? Is it about the victims, people who are victimized? Is it about trying to make sure that these type of atrocities do not happen again? Because if you don't put in place some measure, somebody would be encouraged to try it again, right? Because we see what happens in Mali. Is it about money? No one can deny that you need money to make this thing happen. But are people driven by money first and then dealing with the victims? Or is it a combination of both? So there's some interesting thing we're going to talk about today, right? Specifically, Alan White says he's being invited to Liberia to come and work. I don't know if it's with or for, but you're going to hear in his own voice what he said. And then we're going to figure out what exactly he's doing in terms of his role. So I'm telling you guys, man, it's going to be interesting, So, Doc, let me just pass the baton over to you for a second. Let me take care of some logistics over here.
Okay. Yes. So we're looking forward, guys. Please share the show like I'm doing. I'm sharing it into all my chat rooms. We're looking forward to have a great show here tonight with the professor himself moderating. You know what that's going to be like. So I ask you to share the show. And we already heard one important thing that he said. Alan White being invited to Liberia. I've always had that concern, that question about Alan White's role in Liberia. And we're going to see it. We're going to hear what's going on and what's happening. But invite somebody, share the show. The other guys will be joining us soon. I understand that Lucky Shanko will be coming on. You know who Lucky Shanko is? Not only was he a great soccer player, but he's a musician as well. I mean, he can sing. One of the great songs that he made. Every wedding, funeral, every occasion is Lucky Shanko there singing from all the way Atlanta, Georgia. That music is played everywhere. ATL, everywhere you go. So, guys, if you miss it tonight, you're going to be missing something good. I'm telling you, you're going to be missing something good. So I invite you, hit the share button like we are all doing tonight. Bring on a lot of people to let's hear what's happening tonight on a very professional side. Yes, a very professional side. Get ready. Get ready. We have, so let me recognize some folks watching. Christian Robert, he's always the first to get on. We'd like to welcome you, Christian. James Kayuti, one of our good friends from Liberia. He has followed us the last 4 or 5 years. James is always on with us. James. UJ One Way, greeting from Johnsonville. Liberian history. Welcome, Liberian historian Thomas B. Boss. Welcome. So we'll be joined by a couple of panelists. Ben Semi, Tillman George is back from Liberia. Julius, Lofat Julius, uh, 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 Robert Gagua. So we're looking forward to a really great program today. A really, really great program. So we are looking forward to it. Folks will be coming, and it's going to be an action pack, uh, uh, action pack program today. So hang in there, be with us, and as we begin this program, pretty soon Lucky Shango will join us. He made that favorite song, IE and Barrow song, and that had just been the hit, man. It has been the hit. So wherever you are, man, just hit the click and come on the closing
I
agony.
know.
Yeah.
So let
So
me do a quick sound check, right? I want to check something real quick.
okay.
Let me see if you guys can get the audio. I'm going to try to share something and see if you can get the audio as well. So let me see. Let me share this screen. Let's see. I'm going to share my entire screen over here. I'm going to include audio as well. So let me know if you can see the screen.
Yeah, I see it coming up. Yeah.
All right. So let me just see. I want to just check something out real quick. Let me click on this. It should open up a link. And let me just see if I can drag this over here. So you can see the YouTube coming up.
Let me see here. I think so. I see the screen. And I think that's the YouTube, I think. Is that the YouTube with the hearing that took place? Yeah.
Let me see if you can hear the audio.
Okay.
Let me see if you can hear the audio.
Okay.
Were you able to hear the audio as well?
Not really. Not too clear. Not really.
Okay.
So
okay, we'll try to figure that out. Let's see. All right, let me just stop sharing for a second.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. It did come up. So welcome, guys.
We'll try. All right, let's see. I shared this with Shango. He's going to be coming on very soon.
Cool. I'm looking forward to hear that.
Yeah. So what else is happening out there, man? Let me drop a couple of things on you people real quick, right? So, and this is in fact going to lead when we get into the conversation with Alan White, right? Because Alan White said he was invited over to Liberia by President Boyka, but we all know that if you're going to work for a foreign government, there's a law in place. The U.S. has a law in place called the Foreign Agent Registration Act. You're supposed to register with the Department of Justice. So I'm not sure what his role is. Is he someone who is working for the government? If so, fine. He needs to register as a foreign agent. If he's not, that's fine. If he's an advocate seeking justice, great, because we need to be able to get this thing done. Another thing too, I noticed that, and this is nothing wrong with it, but just kind of interesting. I noticed that the foreign minister, right? What's her name?
Sarah Yanti.
Yeah, she recently hired a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. Now, why would the foreign minister hire a foreign lobbyist? This is the stuff that we said we had then, who has spent over $3 million on foreign lobbyists. Didn't make any sense because you don't have other African countries hiring foreign lobbyists like that. This is why you have an ambassador in another country to take care of some of these things, right? But why is she hiring a foreign lobbyist? We can talk about that as well, right? Yeah, I thought it was interesting. The foreign ministry hiring a foreign lobbyist to do what? That's what the foreign minister is designed to do. You're supposed to be sort of the chief lobbyist for the government. You're not supposed to be out there hiring someone, even though it's stated in the contract that the person will be paid on a contractual basis, meaning per project. But what exactly does that mean? I'm not sure. But
So I mean, and you talk about Professor. I mean, there's a lot of money involved in hiring a foreign lobbyist, especially for a government that just came to power and still struggling to put the finances together. They're cutting budget here and there.
that is correct. So
Wow.
saying that you're hiring a foreign lobbyist and you have to pay them on a monthly basis. We know right before the previous administration left, they had hired a foreign lobbyist that was getting paid almost like $25,000 a month.
Mm.
No, the one with Ed Royce was getting paid about 25. Ed Royce was getting paid like 25,000 a month. But there was a recent one where I think the guy was getting paid about 80,000 or so. It was some ridiculous amount.
Wow.
Yeah, so those are the kind of things that it makes no sense, but I'm sure there's a logical reason. Maybe we just don't know about it.
Yeah.
But hey, again, you have one of the poorest countries in sub-Saharan Africa where people are hiring foreign lobbyists, and you have countries like Ivory Coast. All these other countries, they don't have foreign lobbyists in DC, right?
Yeah.
I think some kingdom in Ghana have a foreign lobbyist, but it's for some business related thing.
Right.
And they're using Reba Livingston as the foreign lobbyist.
Mm.
But why Liberia keep practicing this strategy of hiring foreign lobbyists, I will never know.
Wow. So that's a lot of money, though.
It adds up. It certainly adds up. Paying a monthly fee for a foreign lobbyist when sometimes you have civil service not being paid. It's something interesting. So, let's see what happens with that.
Yeah, that's tough. So, guys, as you make your way here, we're looking forward. That's a breaking news right there. I mean, that was not even disclosed to the Liberian people. Liberian people is unaware. I mean, that the government have hired lobbyists and all of that. Within at least within about 7 months, they have hired lobbyists and all of that, and and the Ellen White invitation. I mean, did they invite him for free? That's something too. I'm really interested in knowing what did the government invite him, what the press tax involved to work with Liberian government, all of that. And so, wow.
Yeah, so this is stuff that we will hear Massa Washington come on board, we'll break it down. We will hear Councilor Jewett come on board and break it down, because the reason why this conversation is important, because there's something going on that the Liberian people are not aware of. This whole war crimes court thing, President Weah talked about it at one time when he was at the United Nations. He brought it up. But by the time he came back to Liberia, landed at RIA, he already changed his mind. He tried to play with words.
Yep.
We know President Sirleaf, in 2 terms, she never touched it. Mm-hmm. Why she never touched it? Well, we know there are some good reasons, because if you look at the recommendations, you can see why she never touched it.
Right.
We can see that President Boycott. But when we get into this, you would need to understand that there is something else going on. There's a fight going on in the background that the Liberian people are not aware of. The civil societies in Liberia, they are aware of it, because they are on the opposite end of these punches that are being thrown.
Right.
So, but the people need to be aware of it, because we need to seek justice for people who suffered as a result of these atrocities, right? And if people are coming in and playing around with this huge topic, there are some people out there who have dedicated their lives to dealing with this stuff. You have Yacinda Martin. She's been after this stuff for years. You have Emmanuel Savage. He's been after this stuff. He's sacrificed a ton to get something like this done.
Right.
Emmanuel Savage has been doing a lot of work. People have been watching him in the background, but he's done a lot of stuff.
Right.
You got a lot of people who've been doing something. We know Massa Washington has done a lot as well. So we'll get into it, because I think there's a part of this whole conversation that haven't been discussed. And as we start discussing it, you will come to realize there's a reason why this guy, Representative Jim McGovern, why he was pissed off when he started this hearing. It wasn't talked about a lot, but he was pissed off, and you will see exactly why he was pissed off. And I really wish you can hear the videos, because I want you to hear in his own words what he said. You know, what Katama said, what Alan Smith, who was there, you know, he was saying some stuff that someone from public relations need to have a conversation with Alan White, not Alan White, but Alan Smith, because he was saying things. Yeah, Alan Smith. There was an Alan White and there was an Alan Smith. So people need to find out, like, you know, why is it that if you don't play ball with Alan White, Michael Rubin, they start pushing to put sanctions on your government. That's how they nailed George Weah, and they nailed, not to say George Weah and his people there were, you know, they were saints, you know, but the whole CDC government was under tremendous fire.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, it's not me saying it. It's in the testimony that Alan Smith gave over at this hearing. He said it. You know, he said that they reported on the Global Magnitsky sanctions. I was like, whoa, this is news.
Wow.
But, you know,
Professor, you are bringing us some very, very important stuff here tonight. It's very important stuff here tonight.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk here like I said. So y'all share the show. Y'all share the show. We get into it. We really get into it. And I'm gonna make sure that you hear it in their words. It's not stuff that I'm gonna say. So you don't have to blame the closing argument. You don't have to blame me. And opinion sharing this show are just the opinion of the panelists. No, nothing whatsoever to do with the closing argument whatsoever. So y'all share the show. Let's get into it. Let me see what's up with Lucky to see if this is a good time for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw somebody, not Lucky, but consider Chiru.
So like Chiru was trying to hop in.
You were trying to hop in, but then he went back off. I know. Yeah. So we. Yep. So we are looking.
But yeah, I see a few people hopping in here. Patrick Kennedy, namesake.
Yep.
Alu Kamara. Yeah, I see a few names that I've seen constantly hopping on this show. But unlike some of the other shows you guys will watch, this one is going to be all about, you know, discussing the facts.
Yeah.
Educating the people at the same time, right?
Yep. Fact is important. Very, very important. So.
Because if you don't have data, you don't have facts. Like we say, you're just sharing your opinion.
Yep. Yeah. So the fact is very, very important. So we're looking forward to it. Looking forward to a great show. Great show tonight. And so.
Let me see if I can get some other people in here.
Yes, guys.
So what else is going on? Yeah.
We doing it, holding it down, taking it easy, Professor. You know, it's a lot going on. I mean, as you watch the news from Liberia, I am really interested in hearing about what's going to happen today on the show. You know, so guys, welcome. Thompson B. Boss, Doc Basson Tia, Mother Rose Brown, thank you for joining us. Mother Rose Brown, Richard Saba, our own friend and brother, Daniel Bozuzi Doida. Welcome, brother. The show is also live on Hot FM. Thank you. ZZ Evan Bala is live on Hot FM, live on True FM, live on True TV, guys. Live on every station in Nimba, everywhere in Liberia. So, guys, the great Mozart Dennis from Minnesota. Welcome, brother Dennis. Very popular name when it comes to Liberia history and sports. Mozart Dennis. Nora Hope, good to see you. Harris Talker, good to see you guys. Welcome, guys. Guys, you will get some information tonight that you have not heard. It's right out there. There are reports.
You see Laura asking. You see the question Laura asking? Laura said, any news about our new? Laura, you should say any news about our new old buses from Ghana. What do you mean about new buses from Ghana? What are you talking about? Come on, man.
The buses. Oh man. Somebody getting rid of that old car and then want somebody to pick it up and we just go for it and people are displaying it. Yellow machine coming to the country without any kind of information on how they're going to pay, who going to do all that. They didn't even say anything about it, but the machine arrived finally. It's there. The Minister of Information made that clear that some of the machines are already in the country, but there's no disclosure on who's going to pay for it, the company that is bringing it, who's responsible, what's the price tag with those yellow machines. There's nothing, and it's stuff, But I'm telling you, some of the news you're going to get today will be your first time hearing it. We have an expert in the house, Professor Larry Kennedy. He's an expert. He brings it to you the facts. He sees everything. I'm shocked today that Liberia have hired a new lobbyist in DC. Guys, these are raw facts, real information, not those kind of information that people just get up and say out of their head. These are raw facts, and that's what we do here on the Closing Acumen. Exactly, we bring you the raw facts, the way it is, and the way we should look at it. And so you're doing a great job, guys. Keep sharing it. I'm sharing this show into every chat room because people are going to hear the fact today. So just keep sharing the move. All the chat room I think I in over 20 chat room, and sometimes I forget about which one is what. But good to see you, man. Jerry Hinney, watching from Harper, Maryland County. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you. Sis Rose Bryan, good to see you too, man. Breakable Powell. He said if you have yellow card that you don't want, call the rescue stream team. So I mean, but it's a lot. It's a lot going on. Some of the guys will be joining us. I saw some people coming on, but then they kind of drop off. I see Chairman Ben Semi is in the back. I saw Lofa was coming on, but then he went back off. So guys, we got to do this show, man. The show is live on Hot FM, True FM, Real TV is on YouTube and all of that. So the news is here, folks. John Saki Cunningham is watching from Atlantic City, New Jersey. KP Country First. He said, I'm very excited about today's show. I have shared it all my friends and group. Good. The professor is very knowledgeable. That's very true. Very much. We're very privileged and honored to have him. He said, who's leading the praise and worship tonight? Where is the friend of all the politicians in Liberia? I don't know who you're talking about, Ruth Bengba. I don't know, but you gotta be friend. I mean, you can't be as a politician. Doesn't mean you can't be friend with anybody. Even opposition are friends with each other. I mean, so it's important. But as soon as we'll be starting soon, so continue to share the show. Breaking news coming up. So looking forward to a great show.
Let me see if I can bring Consular Jiwa in.
Okay, yeah. Miss Freeman Maximo, Vera Freeman Maximo, good to see you, man. Greetings to Mr. Maximo as well. They said our senator, that mathematician now. Who you talking about? Ruth? Yeah, call it Niva. Don't be around it. But what thought he talking? We'll be leaving the truth here. The wooden mathematician read a name. But guys, I'm telling you, it's gonna be a great show tonight. I mean, there's some leading breaking news. Something. Alan White said that he was invited to Liberia by the Liberian government. I'm interested in asking some questions as well. And then we hear that Liberia have hired new lobbyists in DC, and these lobbyists can be expensive. Rob, you say Rob, you say Dylan is the mathematician, and that the light had to be put on your life. The man put a light on in math, then you're asking questions. But guys, I'm telling you, it is fascinating to have you here, especially our friends in Liberia and in the U.S. Yesterday was July 24th Independence in America, and I'm a July 4th Independence in America, and it was. I ate a lot of food until I almost couldn't wake up for work this morning. But it's gonna be fun. Lucky Shanko will be joining us as well, and he will be singing some of his favorite song. And then this Massa Washington will also be joining us from the. She'll be, yeah. So guys, welcome. Welcome, Prince Sunshine Kamara. We inside. You know the music. They got a music like that. They can sing. So in Liberia. I mean, the saddest thing is we beat on president. We are all along for this kind of thing, and just to repeat it makes anybody sick. So I mean, you claim you have the answer. Everything with president. Everything president. Yeah. Oh, the higher lobby they did this, and you kind of do the same thing. It is. It's not a good thing. It's not good governance. If you are doing almost the same thing, and you ran on the mantra that you were going to change things, it's bad. I understand. Yesterday, the president said that they were able to cut the ghost name from the payroll. By, I think 650 people. They were able to get those names out, and we're going to save Liberia $2.6 million. So I mean. So, you say congratulations to a former Lord Roof. I'm not into all your G's. Your G's here tonight. We're going to talk serious thing here. So, carry a G somewhere. Yeah. One of the closing argument panelists who got married. Yeah, I believe Kev Hassan got married. So we wish Kev the best with his family. So that's really, really cool. I think Consular's in the back, Professor. You want me to bring it on now?
All right, so Councilor Jiwa will be joining, and then Massa will be joining. But let me just kind of lay the premise of what we're going to talk about. So hopefully everything on my screen, I'll be able to share it, and then we can really dive into this. But I want this to be kind of interactive, right? So let me share my screen real quick. And when you see Councilor Jiwa in the back, somebody should please let him in.
Consider Frederick.
So, there he is.
Yes.
How you doing? Thank you. How you doing?
Doing well, sir. Doing well.
Good. How are you, sir?
Like everybody, how are you?
So,
how you doing, sir?
Welcome. Quickly introduce yourself. And just
how you doing, man?
Good, sir. Good. Good to have you.
So, Councilor, let's dive right into it. In the interest of time, we're going to have a lot more people joining us.
Okay.
But just quickly let the Liberian people know who you are, and then I will lay the premise in terms of what we're going to discuss today. So, just a little short background.
Well, my name is Councilor Frederick Jiwa. I'm a Liberian lawyer with about 25 years of practice experience. I currently live in Denver, Colorado. I am a 2001 graduate of the Denver University School of Law. I hold a master in American and Comparative Law, much interest in human rights. I've done a lot of work, a lot of writing, a lot of commenting in this area. And so I'm happy to be here.
Great. So let me kick off the conversation. Let's get right into it, right? Did you get a chance to watch that whole session, the Chris Smith hearing on the way forward with war economic crimes court in Liberia? Chris Smith being the Republican representative from New Jersey, as well as Jim McGovern, who was the Democrat representative from Massachusetts. Did you get a chance to watch that video?
I did. I watched the entire thing.
So what was quickly, what was your take, just a high level before we get into the details?
Well, watching the video and watching those who gave their testimony, including Dr. White, I came from there with a take of actually seeing what is it that Dr. White and his group are intending. Because almost all of them that spoke on the issue of human rights and who should participate in the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court, they were all much more in a group divided from the other human rights group that have been in the forefront to ensure that human rights and the rule of law prevail for victims of war crimes in Liberia. I also was shocked to notice that Dr. White and those that, and the entire group, pretty much accused others of being not credible, not trusted, and that in fact they should have no role to play in the establishment, the operation, and the prosecution of war crimes in Liberia. I was shocked in that almost everything they said appeared to me to be hearsay. There was nothing substantial in terms of proof that they had against those that they were accusing. And so my concern was, is this really an interest in establishment of the War Crime Court and prosecuting people who have committed war crimes in Liberia? Or is it it means commercializing the entire process?
Real quick, and Doc, let me know if you guys can see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Representative Jim McGovern, this is what I wanted people then to pay attention to, so they can, I think a lot of people need to understand what is going on here. Representative Jim McGovern said there seems to be a clearly coordinated smear job, if you will. He said several of the witnesses at that hearing were going to attack certain human rights defenders and organizations by name. And he said one would even go further and attack the entire human rights defender, Beth Van Schaick. Ambassador Ben Van Schaick, who is a professor, teaching law, went to Yale, well known. She is the U.S. ambassador that deals with these things. And what he was referring to was Alan White, Alan Smith, Michael Rubin. They came out to attack the entire human rights organizations.
Okay, he's back. He's coming back.
Did I lose you guys?
Yes, but
Yeah,
you're
you
back.
went off.
Yeah. The video went
Yeah.
off.
So after Jim McGovern said that, what was your take on that when he said these people came out here? He said it was a coordinated attack on human rights activists in Liberia, led by Alan White, by this other fellow, Alan Smith, Michael Rubin. He said they were leading the efforts to attack, and they even attacked the U.S. ambassador. What's your take on that? Why were they doing that?
Well, he went further to say that the allegation against all of the human rights institutions, including the U.S. ambassador, there are nothing to sustain what they were complaining of or what they were all coordinating their testimony about. And it came to and even challenged some of them to say that he was going to send out written questions so that people could specifically answer. He came and asked questions to the international justice group, whether they were registered, whether they are 501c3 operating legally in the United States, and whether all of what they were saying have said they could prove it, and so that at the end of the day, it will not just be allegation, that there will be investigation to establish that these human rights organizations are indeed conflicted. Again, what I saw and I thought was that this has been a group of coached groups, people who came in basically to say, hey, we are the perfect group on the block. The other people should not be, the other human rights institution and community should not be allowed to participate. In that, they are conflicted. But I saw the issue of commercializing the entire process instead of having a genuine and needed war crime institution established in Liberia. Liberians have to be very careful.
And Doc, you have a question for the counselor?
Counselor, that brings me to a question here. So we are saying now that in the past, some of the people that got sanctioned, that this group, it could have been mere politics on these people. They probably made up stories on some of these people, and they were sanctioned. That's why it appears to me like I don't know what you think about it, but Counselor.
You know, the entire testimony and the group that are present appear to me to have politicized the entire thing while their testimony. And you might be correct. This group clearly could be the people responsible for how people were sanctioned based upon lies or some reason that they thought politically to benefit themselves. For example, the Dr. White came out, including every one of them, and said that Mrs. Angie Taylor Reed Taylor, was acquitted in Great Britain because one of the defense witnesses were able to establish that even though Mrs. Taylor were accused of having tortured and murdered some people during the Liberian Civil War, this witness was able to establish that the person allegedly murdered was residing in London. Now, that brought me to ask the question, do they really understand what they are saying? Because if you look at the case, I'm able to read the decision of the court in Britain. The decision of the court was not, the court did not just dismiss the case against Mrs. Angie Reed Taylor based upon its merit. It was not on its merit. The court went ahead and said, look, the court said, under the British law, in order to charge any foreign person on British soil with the crime of torture, the person that is accused and the rebel group or the warring faction that is alleged to have been in control of the place where the torture went on must have had some semblance of administrative control. The issue there was that since Banga was not just in the hand of NPFL for forever, it changed hands. So the court was saying that it was difficult to establish, or it was difficult to establish that in fact NPFL had control exclusively over Banga, since the prosecution could not establish that NPFL was in full and complete control over Banga. The British law on torture could not be used to prosecute Mrs. Angie Reed Taylor. Now, in order for you to be able, for a witness to discredit a witness, you must understand the trial process. A witness is only discredited when he or she is placed on the witness stand, testified, examined, and cross-examined. That was not the case in the Great Britain matter. The case was dismissed based upon the fact that the court said the prosecution, the British prosecution, could not establish that in fact NPFL had exclusive and perpetual control of the area wherein the alleged torture went on. And if that could not be established, the court said it had no reason to continue further with the case. So no testimony was given at all. But if you notice, Dr. White, Jerome Vordier, Councillor Jerome Vordier, Smith, Alvin Smith, and the rest of them that testified during this hearing were using the testimony that a witness testified in Great Britain. And that witness said that the person who was presumably murdered is alive. There was no witness that took the stand. So you can imagine.
Councillor, let me give the people a little bit of background in terms of what you're talking about for anybody who don't understand what he's talking about. So during the testimony, when Representative Jim McGovern says some people were coming here to attack other people, this is what he was referring to. Correct. One of the testimony that came from Alan White and came also from Mr. Alan Smith, they said they listed about multiple NGOs that they said these NGOs were paying people to lie on people. And they said one of the example was Agnes Reeves Taylor, the people who testified against her or who led to her arrest over in the UK were being paid. But what the counselor is trying to explain is that the court simply said in order to hold her or charge her, she didn't deny that, she was involved, because there was, like, what's the legal term? Prima facie, right?
Correct.
So she didn't deny that there was enough evidence to bring her to trial. The UK court simply said, we don't have, I don't know if it was jurisdiction or something, and you explained that, but the reason is you have these people who were out there attacking the civil rights organization in Liberia and saying they shouldn't come close to anything with war crimes court, simply because Agnes Reeves had been, the UK court said it didn't have enough to maybe prosecute or whatever the case may be. Then she turned around and decided to sue these organizations. So that's what the counselor explaining. Ellen White was saying these organizations are lying. They shouldn't be in control. There was another lady in there that they said, oh, this lady from Human Rights Watch, she's also lying. So that's what the counselor is trying to explain right now. There are two factions in here. They were fighting over something, and I'll tell you what they're fighting over later. But go ahead, counselor.
So they did not even just stop there to say that we don't have jurisdiction because in order to bring this case before a British court, the warring faction, being the MPFL, must have had complete and exclusive control over the environment wherein the crime of torture was committed. But the court went further to say that in spite of this, even though we are going ahead to dismiss this matter because we don't have jurisdiction, we would not grant Miss Agnes Reed Taylor application to be granted permanent residency in the UK because there are mounting evidence to establish that she might have committed crimes during the warring faction, the war in Liberia. So therefore, she was denied the right to asylum and to permanent live in Great Britain. She appealed that decision. While the appeal was pending, she left and went to Liberia. So I don't, and Dr. Peabody, you be correct. People might have just gone and lied on people. Because if you can take this particular case I just explaining other context and telling the whole world that there were people who said that Mr. Taylor was acquitted because people lied, because people were coached, people were promised asylum in the United States. I mean, it's pretty silly. Who can promise anybody asylum in the United States? You cannot. I don't care how much law you know, you cannot. Because asylum is a federal law. It's the federal government that will review the evidence and grant you asylum. So how can you say people were coached? And how could you even claim that people were coached when those witnesses were prepared? You were not present. You got to be present. You must have participated in the preparation of the witnesses to know that people were promised and people were coached. So I'm afraid that some people might have been victims based upon what those who claim that they were passing correct information to the U.S. government were also lying. I might have had personal interest in telling on people. That could have
and we'll come to that. I know, Doc. We'll come to that. Doc, you have another question for the council?
No, you want to move on, Professor? You can move on because I'm kind of shocked from what I'm hearing right now. So I'm still preparing my question. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. So another question, Councilor, you think people like Ellen White, people like Michael Rubin, you think they're in this for the money or they're in this to see justice for victims in Liberia? What do you think?
I don't know. I know a little about Mr. Rubin. I only saw him when he was giving his testimony in that video. But for Mr. Ellen White, there's a lot have been around about him. In fact, if you were privileged to watch Mr. John Molu on one of the Spoon Talk, Mr. Molu said that President Joseph Boakai exclusively has no interest in establishing and prosecuting war crimes in Liberia. In fact, Mr. Molu went ahead and said that the tape that was leaked, the tape that was seen by many of us, where Mr. Ellen White was speaking to President Boakai and saying, "Sir, why did you invite me here?" That tape, Mr. Molu, John Molu said that That tape was leaked with the hope of pressurizing President Bouacar and his government to ensure that the war crime code and the process of having a war crime code was speed up. So you know, and then it takes a lot of interest, a great interest in what Mr. White, Dr. White said, when in fact there was a group who basically just, without even the National Bar Association, the Female Lawyer Association, the Civil Society Organization, like were all looked at as people who are not credible. And only the group that Mr. White carried to give the testimony should be considered to be the group to establish the war and economic crime code in Liberia. You can see immediately after.
That's the problem right there.
Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi was named, he ran faster than light to recognize Councillor Massaquoi. In fact, I overheard that Councillor Massaquoi had also been recognized by Representative Chris Smith. So I don't know about the other representative, the other man who testified, but I know Dr. White has a personal and private interest. Dr. White was introduced during this hearing as an advisor to President Bouacar. If he is an advisor to President Bouacar, I mean, that nothing legally wrong with that, but you cannot function as part of the Economic War Crime Code because you are a private money maker. You have a contract between you and the government. He did not deny that he's an advisor to President Bouacar. What is he advising President Bouacar on? Why would he be participating in the establishment of the War Crime Code? Why is he so interested in having Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi to function as the executive director? Councillor Massaquoi is deeply conflicted. Currently, there is a $50 million lawsuit filed by Councillor Massaquoi as an agent of Mr. Jibril Massaquoi now in Finland. Not just a lawyer, but filing a lawsuit as an agent, a person who is acting on behalf of the principal, as if the principal would have acted. Is he not conflicted? What is the interest of appointing? Is this a mockery for those who died during the war? Why do we have a lawyer, a junior partner in Council of J. Funati Kofa Law Office to be the executive director? Councillor Massaquoi was objected to be Minister of Justice because he's unqualified. He was also objected to be the Solicitor General of Liberia because he's unqualified. Why is he now capable to be the executive director? And why are groups now capable to be the function of executive director? I think Liberians need to be very careful. Either we have a
so let me hold you there real quick, Councillor. So let me bring the other panelists on because what you just mentioned, I want us to touch on that. Because when Alan White met with President Bouacar and did that video, and he said he was called in to work for President Bouacar or to do whatever it is, that immediately should raise a red flag because any American who is working as an agent for a foreign government needs to register at the Department of Justice. Mm-hmm. So is he an agent getting paid or is he a human rights advocate? We need to understand that because you can't be both. You can't be a paid agent at the same time saying you're advocating for human rights. And the other thing you mentioned, I wanted people to pay close attention. Alan White and his group came in and all of the civil society organization that was mentioned, right? Let me see. I think some of the names were the Advocates for Human Rights, Civitas Maxima, Civil Society Human Rights Advocacy Platform of Liberia. There's like almost like 9 different groups. Mm-hmm. They came and said none of them should be involved in the war crimes court in Liberia. Only that group, Alan White, Michael Rubin, Alan Smith, all these people that should be in charge of handling the money. And we'll talk about the money in a second. But let me welcome Mr. Kelebu Gonglo, and I have my brother here, Toga, as well. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up and want to hop in now, or you want to reserve your questions for the next round.
No, for me, I can go ahead. I mean, the issue of war crimes court is something that has been in the air for some time. Let me say greetings to Councillor Jayware. Is it Jayware?
Correct. Councillor Jayware.
Thank you. Jayware, okay. Nice to meet you, Councillor. So first of all, I am concerned, with your hesitation on the appointment of Councillor Massaquoi. Most of the people who seem to be very worried and hesitant about this code, it stems from the fact that someone like me technically feel when we start going through all of the technicalities, it will just create a process probably that the government is looking for to have the entire process stored. The fact that you have people appointed, the fact that foreign resources are being sought after, the fact that the Liberian people embrace such effort, it puts the government more under pressure to bring perpetrators to book. Don't you think this latest effort, to start critiquing the process this early has the propensity to store this process even further and make sure that victims don't get justice and justice in time? That's my first question, sir.
I'm sure Liberians are very glad and much more thankful to President Boakai for attempting to move as fast as he has done to establish a war and economic crime court in Liberia, 2 separate courts. Equally so, Liberians who are considered as victims need and must get justice. The worries that people like us have is the amount of undue influence that is expected to be meted out on the operation and functionality of the entire court. What do I mean? Councillor J. Fonati Kofa runs the International Law Group. Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi is a lawyer and a junior partner in that law office. Councillor Fonati Kofa had been involved with making sure that Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi became Minister of Justice. That failed. He also was instrumental in showing that Councillor Massaquoi became the SG, the Solicitor General of the Republic of Liberia. That failed. Now we have come to the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court in Liberia. Councillor Fonati Kofa has now rested. Considering his proximity to Mr. Boakai, relationship somehow to Mr. Boakai, and his extent and authority in power currently as a Speaker of the House, Councillor Fonat, and the amount of money that is involved in this entire process, it's not just going to be $54 million. And it is not because the victims will get justice. It is because people want to commercialize the entire process. And that at the end of the day, the money will be shared And Liberian war victims, people who die in Butu, people who die at the Lutheran Church, people who are murdered other places in the Episcopal Church on Ken Johnson Road, other places where people were actually murdered, they would not get justice. Because listen, you have Councillor Massaquoi, who has been loyal and is an agent of those who are accused. Nobody should tell you by he being executive director, he's just an administrator. No, he's the boss of everyone else. If he decides that the prosecutor is proceeding wrongly, with the immense power that he will be holding onto, having the Speaker of the House, having major interest in what's happening in the War Crime Court, Liberians are not going to get justice. So it's better Liberians don't have a court than to have something that will not bring them justice. That's my concern.
Thank you. So quickly, my second issue. I know we got two, right, Professor?
No, technically, we're actually going to do one round, but I'll let you go two.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Now, there are also reports, that it's good that Madam Washington is also on the show as former commissioner of the TRC, because there have been some reports also in the air that many of the people, who were commissioners of the TRC and brought this effort to the level it is for the establishment of War Crimes Court, from maybe the chairperson of the TRC or former chairperson, Councillor Verdio, to Madam Washington, and many of the players, I thought that at this point in time, they would be carrying out this effort instead of, some maybe strange guy from some end handling this effort. I wanted to hear from them whether at any point in time, people, who ran or supervised the activities of the TRC ever at any point in time approached the Boakas administration as to wanting to head this aspect of the War and Economic Crimes Court. Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Let me, Mr. Keller, before I come to you real quick, let me just quickly welcome our other guest, Madam Massa Washington. Like Toga just alluded to, I'll give her a chance to answer your question, Toga. But for folks who out there who may not know who you are, maybe just a quick intro, and then you can touch on Toga's question, and then I will pass it over to you, Mr. Keller.
Sure. Good afternoon, everybody. It's actually good evening. It's early evening here in the United States of America, Bensalem, PA. So thank you so much, Larry, for inviting me to be on the show. I'm glad to be back. This is actually my second time on the closing argument. So it's good to see everybody. Councillor Jayware, it's good to see you, sir. And my brother, Kilebo, good to see you, fighter. So, yeah. So the question that Toga asked, I think is a poignant question. And but this is how I will answer it. I do not speak for the rest, of the commissioners. As you know, we've done our work. We presented our final report. And commissioners, while it is true that we work on the commission in some titles, they follow you like former presidents and stuff like that. But we are also now private citizens. But we are still involved in the advocacy process because we are Liberians and we are also stakeholders in what happens in Liberia. So that's why we are involved. So someone asked similar question last week. And the question he asked was, is there anything in the TRC Act that says that after the commissioners should have completed doing their work, presenting their final report, that they needed to move on to the next phase of this transitional justice process, which is to help with guidance to implement the rest of the recommendations. The TRC came out with more than 209 recommendations. And amongst those recommendations were recommendations for a wide range of subjects and topics and issues concerning Liberia. But key amongst the recommendations were the recommendations for accountability. And this War Crime Court falls under that accountability recommendation. So, and I said to that person, his thing was he thought we did a fantastic job, but he thought that we needed to step back and let other people pick up the mantle and move on. And then so I, said to him, yes, there was nothing in the TRC Act that says after commissioners work on the TRC, we needed to also work with the War Crimes Court or any other process or any, or work to help implement any of the recommendations. But then I also reminded him that, just because commissioners work on the TRC, it doesn't stop us from being Liberians. So after the TRC, we didn't cease being Liberians. We didn't cease being major stakeholders in what's happening in our country. And I think it would be a good thing because, to have commissioners at a point in time help with the process, because the recommendations evolved from us. So we have the concept, we developed the recommendations based upon our process, based upon what came to us, the different processes of the TRC, like investigation, statement taking, all of that. And so I think it would be good in the interest of Liberia. I think Liberia only stand to gain if TRC commissioners are invited or included to be part of the process, because we already have that experience. We have that practical experience from working on the TRC, and we know what's behind the making of the recommendations, why these recommendations were crafted, why were they crafted in the way they were crafted. And, so people need to understand that as Liberians or Liberia will be implementing the recommendations, it would be good to understand where the recommendations derive from and what was behind the creation of those recommendations. So there's no law, anything that says that we must be part of the process, but I think we will be very good resource for the process moving forward. I mean, any transitional justice process in Liberia, whether it's the War Crimes Code, whether it's the memorialization project, whether it's anything that comes out of the recommendations of the TRC, I think we will help and Liberia can benefit from that. And then the part two to your question was, did we try to engage the office of President Joseph Boyka to be a part of this process? And I will say this, commissioners, we are humble people. We are humble. So we've done a piece of work. We think our work is fantastic. Other people, not everybody agrees with me, but, we think our work is fantastic. But we always wanted the Liberian people to own it. So we've done this piece of work. We are willing, and we have been freely giving up our time and services to help educate people and clarify people on what we did about the process. But in the meantime, I don't think we should hoover over the process. Is like a personal a thing. It's not a personal thing. We did this work for the Republic of Liberia, and the people of the Republic of Liberia must establish ownership. So that ownership stage can come with all of us coming on board. People like you, the broader society, the civil society, the Transitional Justice Working Group, which was a consortium of 76, I think, civil society organizations that started the whole TRC process before commissioners even came on board. They helped to vet us. They were part of the CPA. They were part of the drafting of the TRC Act that went to the legislature at the time. So that group that represents a civil society is such a key strategic group to be part of this. And that group was left out. And other, for example, the Bar Association, they were left out. So there was no extensive vetting in this whole selection of Mr. Jonathan Massaquoi. So but let me just cut this short. I think it would be a good thing in the interest of Liberia if commissioners, were a part of the process, because I think we can add some value to the process. But I also think, for the sake of being inclusive, other Liberians who have transitional justice experience, other Liberians who are studying transitional justice, other Liberians left from civil society who work with the Bar Association, women's group and stuff. I think everybody should feel inclusive. Everybody, there should be a form of ownership of this. So that way it doesn't look like, it's a quote unquote TRC commissioners thing. I would hate to think that TRC commissioners should be like the only people or key people who would just know that that's not good. That's not how it should go at all. But I think we should be inclusive or included in the process.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us, Massa. So with that said, let me swing it over to Kalabu. You can ask counsel. You can ask our guest your question.
Thank you. But I hate to do this. I have my two set of questions, but I think Commissioner Massa Washington did not answer the question that my brother Toga Alexander Biade asked. Massa, I will tell you for the record and in public, Toga and I have had debate on this. There is this propaganda against TRC Commissioner from Boakai Ezeglemason that you guys have lobbied to be appointed as director for the war crime. So because you and I appointed, you people are angry. Did you lobby with Boakai for you to be appointed?
No, none of us lobby with Boakai. No TRC commissioner that I know. I certainly didn't lobby with Boakai. I know the president, and we know some people who are in his inner circle. We've not asked them one day, say, please, put in a word for us to the president. No, we have not lobbied for this because we didn't think that we needed to lobby for this. This process is a Liberian process, and we think that all Liberians, especially those who have the skills and the knowledge, should be free to be a part of the process. I mean, when you have TRC commissioners who have the knowledge and practical experience for this work, I don't see how people would think that commissioners should not be a part of the process. So, we didn't think that we needed to lobby with the government, though, so we didn't lobby at all.
Okay, at least that is clear on that. This is publicly recognized, clear. Commissioners did not lobby. That last comes from the Ezeglemason. It's a last comes from the belly of the devil. It's clear. So now I'll go to my two questions. This was just to elaborate, follow on the other question. Larry, I mean, for me, I feel a little bit somehow if I should be asking questions. I don't have a question. I've listened to these two folks on FOL. And in fact, I listened to Councillor Jiwa, the argument he made, which I believe during the course of this discussion, Toga and I have had debate on that. The further generator massacre is Antonio, in fact, for Gabriel massacre. I'm sure you elaborate, follow on that, on this issue, because Toga and I have had debate on this, off the record, So, my request to you, Larry, is I posted a video here of Prince Johnson in an interview, I believe, with a foreign journalist. It's just about 4 minutes, but you don't have to play the 4 minutes. You can play maybe just 2 minutes of that. There is a place where he's disclosing all about Alan White, how he's embroiled in the political process in Liberia. I think it's good to play for the public to understand.
Doc, you have access to it. Can you play it for Kalabu, please?
It's in the chat room.
I don't have access to it. Yeah, but putting it on, I don't have access to that, to doing it.
Yeah, I think that normally Lofa Julius, but I think we got to train other people to start doing this.
I can see Kalabu because I'm not on my
I can play while my line is open and you listen to it.
Fun too.
So before we hop into it, you want to give us a little background on what it is. So
basically, Prince Johnson is actually exposing who Alan White is. Alan White was the promised Prince Johnson that you were taking off the TR, the war crime code list. You would take Benin Nigeria off if they do certain favor for him. He's a discredited guy, And I will say this, like I'm trying to give a comparison here. Like FIFA is a world body, right? So you got sub FIFA clubs like CAF, then you got WAFU at the West Africa level and regional level. So if you're having something to have validation and you exclude FIFA subcommittees, it will not meet FIFA standard. What Alan White and his cronies are doing, they want to exclude even human rights group like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International. Mm-hmm. That is ludicrous. That is stupidity. You know, it does not make sense. And of course, our country is a very poor country because of corruption and bad leadership. We have hundreds, in fact, millions of Liberians living on the periphery of the society. So anybody can grab anybody today and say, "Oh, we are civil society group. We're endorsing you." Even you go to Monrovia today, Larry, if you have 500 US dollar, if you want RI to receive you, that Larry Kennedy is returning to Liberia, you have buses there with $500 people waiting for you because it's a poor country, and the politicians have kept the country poor for a reason. Today, on front page,
that's a great point, Kelabu. But let ask Councilor Chiwe. I love what you're saying, Kelabu. Councilor Chiwe, you think Allen White trying to do just that, exclude other organizations? And I'll come back to you, Kelabu, so you can finish your thought. But
I think if you anyone with sound mind who listen to the testimony, the past testimony, and listening to the suggestion how much money is needed to prosecute war and economic war crime code in Liberia, and looking at how wild allegations have been made against people without the simplest inch of proof, you can tell that Mr. White is commercialized. You can tell that Mr. White is not interested in prosecuting war crime code because look, if you're trying to tie Human Rights Watch to being not credible, are you kidding me? You're trying to tie Amnesty International, the U.S. ambassador for global human rights. You tie all those people to being not credible, and that they should not function or be a part of the entire process. Who is credible? You and your group, where people testify and say, and they could not, for the ambassador, they could not say anything so erroneous. They said she meeting with human rights organization in Liberia. So what? When you meet with human rights organization in Liberia, then you are tinted. And so you can't believe that Mr. White, I can understand, he's an advisor to President Bouaka, as you were introduced. He's looking for a way to make some money. And other Nigerians will have interest in that.
Kelabu nailed something. Let me read and Councilor, I'll let you finish your thought before I go back to Massa and Tuga and Doc. Let me read what Representative Chief McGovern said. And Kelabu, this is, I think, the point you're trying to make. This is what he said. He said, I think it is worth reminding everyone that accountability requires due process. He said, presenting, and these were the witnesses at the hearing who were presenting. He said, presenting allegations that are not substantiated in public, in which those targeted, they name about 10 different organizations, including Human Rights Watch that the councilor just mentioned and what you just mentioned. These guys came in and they named all these organizations and said they were incredible. So Jim McGovern took exception to that. He said, look, listen. He said, so I want to be clear. This is Jim McGovern saying, I want to be clear that some of what is being said today, I am going to take some serious issues with that. And he said, I will regret that, but I'm going to take they were there accusing everybody else of not being credible, except Allen White and his group and Michael Rubin. Kelabu, back over to you before we go to Massa and Tuga.
No, yeah, because I watched that testimony over and over. I saw Alvin Smith. When last Alvin Smith ever came near human rights work in Liberia? I don't want to talk. He's my Peking. I don't want to talk about him. Okay? This is ridiculous. And you go prepare text and give it to him and say, go read it. So this guy is commercializing our country. It's because of bad leadership. Liberian leaders are usually not serious people. So Allen White is capitalizing on that. And because there are credible reports out there, rumors out there, that even corrupt leaders, you have one agent that I don't want to name that agent publicly, but he's a Liberian. With him, he is a conduit. They go to these senators, these corrupt ministers, and here the sanction list coming up. It's that how they make money. They take as low as $2,000 from somebody. We got to talk for you. They use Congressman Smith name in this process. We heard all those rumors about the activities in the country. you know. So, Larry, not to take more time, can I just play PYJ interview here? I'll make it loud so everybody can hear part of it, you know.
Yeah, play it. Then we go to my side. Then we go to Toga, and we welcome our colleague Grace as well.
Wait a minute. Are you guys hearing this?
No.
No.
I may need to switch my computer so I can be able to grab what you put in the chat and share it. So give me a few minutes. I will switch my computer. But
Okay.
let me switch over to my side.
It's good to play that. Yeah, I will go off, and it's good to play that because
I
PYJ
would
is
grab it.
admitting everything here Allen went through publicly.
And let me say this before I go to Grace and Toga. So, Madam Washington, there were 10 different organizations, including Human Rights Watch, that Councilor Chiwa just mentioned, that these guys came in and said they're not credible. They even went out of their way and attacked the U.S. ambassador, saying that she was conflicted and saying that she was hiding information because she was still working with this organization, which she should have recused herself. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that part, but are they the ones who are credible? And all the human rights organizations in Liberia, they're not credible?
Oh, that's a very good question, Larry. My late father was a man of many parables, and he used to say, were many kids growing up. At any point, were like 7 children in the house growing up at all times. And, you know, so things were happening, and then people will always run in front to complain. They would run in front to lay complaint. And my father used to say, just because you finish running in front now to come and report, it doesn't mean that you're right, I'm going to investigate this. So it's not always that the person who runs in front first and come and complain, you know, is actually the aggrieved party. That person may be the aggressor. And so that's what you see here. In the first place, before this has been like an escalation of what you see happening now. Someone like me have been going through this behind the scenes forever and ever. I think you know that same Allen White group. Allen White himself, as head of the group, has not come out to even mention my name or disparage me. But what he's done is that he, you know, he enabled his people around him, especially like Alvin Smith and the rest of them, and they had. And it was like, it started in 2021. It was like 3 years. They were on me, attacking me, telling lies about me, going in chat rooms, saying things about me that was not right. Lying that I had met with George Weah gave me money. I've never met with George Weah since he's been president. Commissioners have been trying to meet with George Weah to talk to him. We were trying to get him to talk to him, to encourage him to bring the war crimes court. Weah never met with us. None of his officials met with us. They McGill, other than, in fact, we heard that it was McGill and 2 of them who were behind not wanting the war crimes court. And this very Moba Modu who came out yesterday, you know, he made a press statement. He put his group together. He says he's advocating now for a war crimes court and for justice, but then in the meantime, he's endorsed a genital massacre. This same Moba Modu was there for 6 years with George Weah then. We never heard him mention war crimes court. We never heard him lobby for the war crimes court. All of a sudden, Allen was in the picture, and then Moba Modu comes out now. He wants war crimes court now, and you know, and he's siding with Allen White. So you see where it's going. So I have been like one of the targets, not just me, but other people, but I have been like a primary target. So this time around, it's just more so now on Hassan and the rest of them. It's been going on for a while. And the reason is because people feel like they need to get some of us out of the way. I will tell you straight, I'm not going to boast of anything, or none of us are perfect, but I want to see that person who has been born onto a woman who can bribe me. I really want to see that person. That person has not been born yet. And if the bribery figure, it has not, you know, the amount has not been, you know, known or created yet. So I'm not the type of person that people will bribe. TRC commissioners are not like that. John Stewart are not like that. If not, we will be sitting pretty today. And we could have played the game when we were on the TRC and be, you know, compensated and be considered for further government. By now, we, you know, got big jobs. It was not about that. The Liberian people trusted us, so they put us over there to represent them, and I'm glad we did. We did. So when I watched that hearing, in the first place, Larry, everybody else, Grace, let me say hi to Grace. I haven't seen you for a long time. Mama, how you doing? I was just asking about you the other day.
I'm Sis Masa. How are you?
Good to see you. So in the first place, Larry, is that when Allen White surfaced a couple of years ago in this whole war crimes court thing and asking for accountability. He never reached out to TRC commissioners. He never. Only one commissioner he plucked from our midst was the chairperson. So I guess he figured for his purpose, he only needed the chairperson because the chairperson had a title, chairman of the TRC. That's a heavy title. So if people who understand the act of manipulation, if you got the chairman of the TRC, you think you don't need the rest of the commissioners. But guess what? We have worked as a team. And the commission did, I think, well because we work as a team. So that's what he never engaged the rest of the commissioners. He never engaged civil society organizations. He never engaged human rights organizations on the ground. Even human rights in the organizations in the diaspora, he never engaged all of them. He will go on, he will watch all these different talk shows and stuff and pluck one or two persons from there. I guess who he felt that he could manipulate and who he felt would be in awe of him because he's white, he got his experience, he got, he was a chief investigator for Sierra Leone. So he chooses the people I think that he knows will be easy, who will not ask him any question, who would be elated if he tells them, I'm taking you to Congress to meet, never mind, even if it's just Congressman Chris Smith, I'm taking you to Congress. Okay, so the first hearing they had, was, in 2002, at Congress. If you notice again, it was the same group of people that he carried it. It was the same group of people. He never extended invitation to the rest of the human rights group in America or even in Liberia. He never did. He never extended invitation to the TRC commissioners or any of you guys or the media to say, look, I want to try to organize, a hearing for the war crimes court. We are inviting you. It's open. Please come if you have the time. That would have been a golden opportunity for all of us who've been pushing for this thing for so long to go over there and make the case and even strengthen it. But no, he would never invite everybody else. So he did it the first time, and when it was a complete blunder. People, their own statement, they could not read it, so you used that people wrote a statement for them. Then they went again 2 weeks ago on that Thursday, and I watched it from beginning to end. Again, it was the same people, his same select group of people, like someone like Alvin Smith. And the reason I'm mentioning him is because he's one of those who have been disrespecting me, telling lies about me. So I will mention him. So someone like Alvin Smith, who has no experience about nothing, goes to Congress and actually perjures himself and says that he's a war crimes investigator. And that is something that people really need to investigate. So he needs to tell the people, where did he do this war crimes investigation? Because we never heard about it before. So this is what is going on. So Allen White knows what he's doing. Allen White wants to manipulate the process for his own benefit. And so he goes amongst Liberians and he selects those people who he thinks will not ask him any question. If Allen White call me and say he wants to do that, I'm going to be asking him questions because, your credibility is attached. I want to know, what is this about? How is it going to benefit Liberia? How is it going to benefit, the work we did on the TRC? No, he's not going to ask the rest of the commissioners. He's not going to ask other human rights advocates because he got his people. Like Alvin Smith. Everybody knows Alvin Smith lies so much. If he tells you good morning, you have to look out your window and see whether it's done. So that's the situation we have on our hands. And this Prince John thing or revelation is actually an old one. Okay, Allen White has an extensive, resume, I may say, of just being all over the place. One meaning Allen White is lobbying for everybody else. I think after the war, when Mr. Taylor became president, there was a list of a lot of Charles Taylor's people who were on the sanction list. A lot of them were on the sanction list. Bernard Iwe was one of those people on the sanction list. Allen White contacted him, and he was able to get a couple of them off the sanction list. And he's been the lobbyist for Mr. Iwe forever and ever. So he's a friend of Mr. Iwe. But Mr. Iwe is in the TRC report on the economic crimes listing. But then he's the long-term lobbyist and agent for Mr. Iwe and others who were on that UN sanction list. And who are not on it anymore because Allen White was able to, mango. So he gets paid for that. Allen White has a registered lobbying organization, which again, I want to clarify that it's not a crime. It's not a crime to be a lobbyist in America. You can, once you register your organization, you can be a lobbyist, fine. But then the thing is, you have to make full disclosure. You cannot be a lobbyist trying to make money, and at the same time, you want to be the chief human rights person for Liberia. Who confer upon you that authority? Who asks you to come to Liberia to now want to do all this human rights thing when we've been seeing you all in the politics of Liberia. 1 minute, you are trying to talk to the CDC, whatsoever, that relationship went sour. Then the next minute we saw you, trying to inch with the communist people, because I have a I won't call it a receipt, I think a contract or a draft contract or quasi contract, but this is a contract that was drawn up between Alan White and the communists and the ANC last year towards going to during the elections. He was all over the place, and said he could help communists sell himself or whatsoever. They drew up a contract. I think that contract was for $180,000 or so. But I have it. Someone sent it to me. I have it. I also have a copy of Alan
It's
White.
online.
Exactly.
Yeah, the contract is online. Yeah.
Okay,
but,
exactly.
I need to switch computers. Let me turn it over to Doc. I'm going to switch computers and be right back.
Okay.
Yeah, let me ask you my question before.
Master, for us to make the discussion floor, please just keep your answer short. So
Yeah,
you gotta
right.
it's like we're not alone. We got many panelists. You have to
we'll go to Grace, but I want to bring Councilor Jay Ware in as well, and Mrs. Washington, you can comment. Thank you for joining us today. Let me ask: is it that Mr. White has his connection in Congress? Does he have special favor that he can? Because what I've learned is that there are a lot of Liberian government officials that when they call Alan White, they are all afraid because they believe he's the one. The senators, the representative, even ministers, it's like once Alan White Alan White name comes out, they are all afraid that he can bring sanction on there, he can do this, and all of that. With all of this, is Congress not doing their own investigation to know exactly if he only selecting special people? He condemning the entire Amnesty International in Liberia, all the human rights groups in Liberia. He want to bring in his people. I mean, Congress would just sit and listening. I mean, they don't do their due diligence as well, because when you go there and you're talking about people and you bring these crimes on people, these are great crime, and people will suffer for the rest of their lives. Councilor, if you can talk on that, and then Mrs. Washington, and then we'll go to Grace for her question.
Yeah, I may have to comment on that question you asked.
I
may have to comment on that.
I don't think that White carries with him any extra power or knowledge or favoritism. I think what has not happened clearly is that the human rights community in Liberia, including the Liberian National Bar Association, have not worked together long enough or in a manner that they can inform Congress. If you consider how Congress is structured, there are these committees and subcommittees. So you notice that Alan White being carrying the same group of people saying 2012 and now 2024, and saying nobody else formally question him or have written Congress to give contrary views as is happening now that much. Alan White appears to be the Jesus Christ in the church. And at the end of the day, the Congress might seem to be believing him because unless for the congressman who questioned whether even the International Justice Group is registered as a 501c3 in the United States and functioning, because the congressman said, I checked, I did my research, I did not see you listed amongst the 501c3 organization. And these organizations have just maybe been misinforming Representative Chris Smith. And unless counter information is given to that committee and other members of Congress, I'm afraid that we may be running a situation where Alan White speaks, Mr. Chris Smith, Representative Chris Smith concurs, and then Liberia is left in the cold. But there's nothing special about him. I think Liberia need to speak up more. We need to give more information to Congress, counter him, because everything he and his group said in the testimony, they presented not a single piece of evidence, not a single piece. Even went further to lie that Mrs. Agnes Reed Taylor was acquitted because somebody had testified that she killed somebody during the war and that person was alive and living in London. That's not what the decision is. The decision is that the British court will not entertain prosecuting a foreign national for the crime of torture when in fact the group that is accused of committing the torture did not have perpetual control and exclusive administrative jurisdiction over the place. There were no witnesses that testified. So where are they getting the information from that somebody died and the witness testified? So you can tell how much lies that honor here. And you know, I'm taking aback that my colleague Councilor Vodia is part of all of this kind of nonsense. It's part of this group that testifying that nobody in Liberia is qualified to function on the Human Rights Court except Allen White. Nobody in Liberia is qualified to handle the human rights cases unless Allen White. Perhaps he might promise him some money. What is this that is happening? That he's sending people to testify and telling lies. Is Bafflet Dolly, that's one of the person that will be a witness? Bafflet Dolly was a general in Liberia. Will he be one of your witnesses to Congress? Would Colonel Wright, Moses Wright, be one of those who are witness for you? No, Liberia saw Moses Wright. Liberia knew Moses Wright performing in Liberia. So these people that and Massacre, Jibril Massacre, are those your witnesses to say that this group is pure? I think Liberia need to take up the time to formally inform and boldly inform Congress. Other than that, we are running a risk.
Mrs. Washington, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, so absolutely. Councillor Jewell just actually summarized what is really obtaining. Like he said, it's always only this group that, you know, Dr. White takes to Congress with him. And I will not sit here and impugn the reputation or credibility of Congressman Smith. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt. I would think that for a man like Congressman Smith at his level, I don't think he really knows what is going on. I think he's acting upon information that's coming to him from Dr. White, because Dr. White has an impressive resume. If you're not a Liberian like me or other people who have caught up with his playbook, you know, you would think that he should actually be the chief prosecutor for the War Crimes Court for Liberia. But we've caught up with him. So you can see how it would be easy for someone like Congressman Smith, who probably doesn't really know much about Liberia, has not heard from other human rights groups, have not even heard from other victims or witnesses, besides that same group, handful of people that Allen White takes to them over and over and over and over. So I would give him the benefit of the doubt that he probably doesn't really know, you know, what's really going on. I call it a big scam. So so as you can see that I was saying before, Allen White has an extensive record of political lobbying for, you know, for his money. That's what he does. I have a copy of his organization. If you go online, you can get a copy of his institution lobbying registration. That's what he does. So he was lobbying Ellen before, and then he went to WIA, and then he went to the CDC WIA, and then he started trying to talk to Mr. Cummings. Now, you know, he has graduated himself with the current president, Joseph Boyka. And unfortunately, we have some unscrupulous people who are within the reach of the presidency, who have the president's ears, and, you know, people promising them money and stuff, and it's just going ahead. So Allen White wants to hear this. In the first place, let me make this clarification. Allen White did say when he went to Congress, he said that President Boyka has actually appointed him as advisor to this War Crimes Code project. And it has been disputed because our colleague, Adama Dempster, told he said, no, we have not heard any such appointment. Up until now, I have not heard it. I have not seen it. So maybe some of you have heard it from the president's office, and maybe you have seen it in written communication, but I have not seen it anywhere. It's just Allen White, you know, just saying things, expanding things, and, you know, and just making it appear like he has all this authority in Liberia. So up until now, President Boyka's office needs to clarify, has he appointed Allen White as, you know, special advisor to this War Crimes Code project? He needs to clarify that, because that was one of the points that Adama took with him and was arguing back and forth. And then also, so it's just part of Alan White playbook, Dr. Peabody. You ask the question, does Congress believe him? Does he have all this clout? Liberians are so afraid of him. I think Liberians tend to be, I don't think they're afraid of him, but I think they think he has all this power and stuff. It's just part of his playbook. So how I say the rest of us were able to catch up with it and we're putting up this fight because we know, it's just part of his playbook. I was down in Washington, D.C. in February of this year, and I met with highly placed, governmental, people. And I specifically asked them about Alan White because I thought it was an opportunity. I didn't go there for Alan White business. But given the caliber of people that were in the room with me, I just thought it was an opportunity to clarify this thing. So, I asked, I'm like, is this man actually, is he acting on behalf of your government? What's his role in the U.S. government? And, and one of them just said, Commissioner, don't even bother about it. He does not work for the U.S. government. He's not a contractor. He in no way is he connected to us. He's a private citizen, and we see that he's in Liberia doing his private thing. So Alan White does not even represent the United States government. And Liberians who don't want to pay attention, I don't know whether that they walk out, where people still in walking amnesia. They don't want to pay attention. So Alan White comes, he rubs Congressman Smith, in our face. He comes, he say all these things. He brings this extensive resume. 2 weeks ago, I was on a talk show. I think it was last week. I was on one of the talk show, one of our colleagues' talk show, and then one of the host on the talk show actually brought out a resume, Alan White's resume, and was reading it on the talk show. Was reading it to counter some of the points I was making that Alan White's a lobbyist. I thought it was very interesting. So you have Liberians, even who are educated at our level, are also being bamboozled by Alan White. People have not seen the light. So Alan White comes and he said, I'm going to put you on sanction. But then they don't even sit to think and say, well, does he really have the authority to put us on sanction? Alan White has no authority to put anybody on sanction. It's just so happened that there is something called coincidence and coincidences. So people were already investigating, some of the officials, our officials, and some of those people. And they were already talking about putting people on sanction. So Alan White comes and say, oh, we'll put people on sanction. Jerome Verda comes and say, we'll put people on sanction. And then it happens, and then people think, oh, yes, that Alan White who putting people on sanction. It's all a playbook. It's all part of Alan White's playbook.
All right, just before Grace come on, quickly, go ahead, and then we'll go to Grace.
Well, I just want to add to that because I think Massa struck a very important point here. And also Jewel. I think Councillor Jewel point that Liberians have not counted Alan White last. Okay? Alan White is a lobbyist. Many journalists, news outlets in Monrovia, we need to get the information out to them. Let them publish it. And those of you who have Alan White contract, you get it to Front Page Africa or to the Observer. Let them publish it, okay? So people know who he is. And Peabody, to your question, the reason Alan White survives is because Liberia is notoriously a corrupt society. And this sanction thing, we have people are very corrupt. So they were easier to bamboozle than believing that he has the key to that. I've heard report that this guy takes as low as 2,000. Working at lobbyists in DC will take 2,000. He's just a survivor. And he got an agent that I know. And this agent is a pathological liar about his resume. He goes there, he's one who goes and contact. He's in Liberia, he calls himself CIA. Which CIA can identify himself publicly in the world?
He goes and pick up the money. He picks up the money from
and I know this fellow. We all live in Philadelphia. Who does that? But the survival in Liberia, this country is just blind. It's like a gold mine for liars. And that's what Alan White is surviving on. Okay? That's what I want to say about. But even the U.S. ambassador, recently, a respected human rights lawyer in Liberia, met the U.S. ambassador recently at the Shadija affair and told him Alan White does not speak for the U.S. government. When the government is going to put anybody on sanction, the State Department has a way of conducting investigation and collecting information through the embassy. It's not Alan White. Alan White is a lobbyist. They made it clear to him, and I know this for fact.
Wow, Chris, come on. Chris, come on.
Hey, I mean, it's nice to be here. It's nice to see Sis Massa Washington. We come a long way. Yeah. Many people don't know, but she's like my big sister. She knows the story because I can't remember. I think I was like 5 or something, but she knows the story. She and my sister, they grew up together. So I love you, Massa. But thank you for all your work and everything you've been doing, especially when it comes to the War Economics Crimes Code. You guys have been doing amazing. Get a boo here, just whining all day. We tired with the whining. At the end of the day, Allen White has defended his work, his need for accountability for the War Economics Crimes Code in Liberia, and that's what the Liberian people want. You know, and I know that you guys are doing a lot of work, and I know that you have played your part. But our thing, we who looking from although we are Liberians, but we're looking from the outside, most of the Liberian people will want this thing to happen. Instead of us sit down here and continue to complain, I want to ask you guys, what can you do since you guys have a pushback with Allen White and the Liberian people, majority of them looking for accountability? Allen White defends to you people that he's fighting for the Liberian people that went through this war that suffer. So what is the strategy now that if this man has inserted himself in the Liberian community, in the society concerning this War Economics Crimes Code, what are you people doing so we can join you? Since we believe you people are Liberians and we believe you're on the right side because you're one of us, how can we go about trying to remove this man? And that's the discussion we should be having instead of us complaining, since he's a problem to the establishment of this court and people saying that he lobbying and getting money and he doing this one, he doing that one. Are coming from the outside, saying for us, we just want the War Economics Crimes Code. This man is doing what he wants, like to be held accountable for what they did. The people who killed people, mercilessly in this war that God is seen on Liberia today. That Liberia cannot go anywhere because of the amount of lives that were taken and the way they kill people. So, since my question, I want to help you in this the fight, because I believe what you say. I don't know the man like that. But I know him on the point that he's fighting for the accountability for Liberia, and so we agree with whatsoever he's doing. So that's where I'm coming from. So if you or Councilor Jawed can answer, what is moving forward? If you guys gather a team or a strong team and say, you know what, we are going to Washington. We don't want this man to be over our War and Economics Crimes Code. We are going to fight to the end. That we want this thing to be independent, with Liberians included and inclusive in it. We should settle our own differences, and we should. So, what are you people playing? What's supposed to remove Allen White from this?
Okay, I will be short because I know Councilor Jiwo and other panelists, have to speak as well. So yes, Grace, you did strike a salient point. You said Dr. Allen White, made himself, and then I'm not quoting you directly, I'm paraphrasing your word. So he made himself the face of Liberia's advocacy for war crimes code, or at least in the international community. Do I think that Allen White wants the war crimes code? Yes, I think Allen White wants the war and economic crimes code. All of us sitting here want the war and economic crimes code, but Allen White wants it for reasons different from our reasons. That's where we have the problem. So Allen White wants a war and economic crimes code, right? Because it's a conduit through which, one, he can fill his pocket, and two, he can prove, he can extend his resume, or he can prove that, he's this big shot in Liberia. But we, and again, I have no right to speak for the rest of you, but I'm kind of thinking that we want a war crimes code because we want true accountability in Liberia for all those reasons, Grace, that you lay out. They killed our people, they raped our people, they opened our mother's stomach, they took our young cousins, our small brothers, turning them into drug addicts, the Azokos on the street and whatsoever. We want war crimes code, that kind of destruction and mass murder that happened in Liberia. I mean, look at the Lutheran Church, kill innocent people, including babies and stuff. J.J. Robert compounds, the UN compound, the massacre in Baketu. So we want justice. We want the war crimes code because we want justice for our people. Allen White wants the war crimes code because he knows that through the war crimes code, he can get his money, he can get paid. So he's looking for payday. And we are saying, no, we don't want you to corrupt the process. It's a desecration of the blood and sweat of our people. Okay? And if Alan White had any good intention, he was going to be transparent from the very beginning. People are saying, even with the massacre thing, he's a lawyer, so. And well, it's just the secretariat. No, processes matter, because processes are the bedrock and the foundation, okay, from which other important things arise. For example, the structure of the secretariat. That secretariat and what structure they will put in place at the end of the day will determine the narrative and how the war crimes code will go. So it's very important for it to start off in the right way. It's like building a house. If you go build your house, you don't put enough cement and enough steel rack and steel and how you call it, crush rack and stuff. Your house is going to sink. Your foundation probably will collapse on you. This is what is happening here. So now you have Alan White being hijacked in the process. They put Jonathan Massaquoi there, who, as far as I'm concerned, he's a random lawyer in terms of human rights. He's a random guy, random lawyer, who is actually a commercial lawyer who makes his money, and he has extensive relationship with Alan White. People who they're supposed to be prosecuting the Jibril massacre and the rest of them, he's representing them. He's actually acting as lawyers, suing human rights or defenders and human rights advocates. And then he's also not only acting as lawyer for these alleged perpetrators, but he's also acting as the agent. So there's a difference between, I'm not a lawyer, so you acting as a lawyer, but then you acting as the agent as well. When you act as the agent, then you act on their behalf. You make decisions on their behalf. You do things on their behalf. And this is what he's doing. So this is War Crimes Code now. Secretariat, that this Jonathan massacre is supposed to be, laying the foundation for the prosecution of these people. These are the very people who are his clients. So it is this glaring, gross violations of conflict of interest we're talking about. It's not right. This process, it must be fair, it must be transparent, and it must be credible, because Grace and everybody else, at the end of the day of all of this accountability, we're hoping to reconcile our people. Liberians are not reconciled. This peace we have is cosmetic, it's fragile. If we do that War Crimes Code right, where the right people are prosecuted for what they did or whatsoever, at the end of the day, we can focus on reconciliation of our people. We need to reconcile our people. So this is not just a process of we just doing War Crimes Code. The end result is we want to be able to reconcile our people. And I don't see Alan White taking us there. So you ask, what are we doing? Well, we've been writing since, we've been writing if you notice, every week. We're in the papers, we're making the rounds of talk shows, we're doing some other things and stuff. And as we speak, we're drafting a letter now to send to Congress to ask, that same Blatos commission or committee for a meeting to meet with them, because we have to meet with, Congressman Chris Smith so that he can hear the other side of the story, and hopefully, he can, make an informed or decision on this. And President Boyka, we're doing back channels, talking to people to appeal to him to please rescind this decision, because this is crazy. You can't just take a random guy who is a lawyer, he's attached to the Speaker office, corruption all over the place. Then you take him and put him there. There's a senior who prosecuting human rights or campaigners. You take him, you put him there to be head of the secretariat that's supposed to prosecute his clients in Jibril massacre. Then come on, it's ridiculous. I mean, it lacks credibility. The conflict interest is all over the place. Secondly, this dude knows nothing about human rights law. He knows nothing about international humanitarian law, international human rights law, or what constitutes or genocide, war crimes. This dude knows nothing. He has no human rights experience, has no transitional justice experience. So how is he supposed to do this job? He is the most unsuited and incompetent for this job.
Wow.
Maybe one reason why Liberians believe that Dr. White is acting for Liberia and Liberia war victims is because people have just seen all they have seen and heard of him is that he was the tough guy who was in Sierra Leone, who succeeded in having Mr. Taylor arrested. And succeeded in making sure that Mr. Taylor was prosecuted and convicted, and other people. But there's much more to Dr. White. And there is much more to his interest in Liberia. His interest is not about Liberia war victims. In fact, prior to coming here today, I read on Front Page Africa that a group of 300 Liberian war victim organizations they got their signatures. And that's the signature that Dr. White is running around with from place to place to say, these are the human rights organizations. In fact, I got more number. I got 300 Liberian human rights organizations supporting me for war crime code to be established in Liberia. No Liberian in their rightful mind, Grace, has interest to refuse for the war crime code to be established. What Liberians are concerned about, and I'm worried about, is that if you have somebody like not John Molu, Mulva Molu, to stand up and release a press statement and say, and bring I call them few hundred people in some small palaver hut to read a statement to say, I'm supporting Jonathan massacre. Why does he need support? If you're so competent, so qualified, and able to bring war crime code, establish war crime code in Liberia, do you need people under the palaver hut to bring statement to say we will support you? You don't need support. You are selected for a piece of job. But you know, the only qualification that Dr. White has is his ability to run from one political grouping to another political grouping, hoping that he can get some money. In fact, if you listen to this hearing, and I must also add that none of the group of human rights organizations that were accused have accused the group that accusing them. None. None of them had taken them publicly to tax to say this Dr. White group should not be part of the establishment of the war crime code. Why is Dr. White forming a group? Is he a Liberian? Does he have anybody who were murdered during the war in Liberia? Or are Liberians believing that because of his activities in Sierra Leone, so he is the most qualified? I can say to you that Liberia as a country is replete with professionals. People who are ready to be the one to function. What are we doing? What we do is this teaches us some lesson. What we do is to ensure that Congressman Chris Smith and Congress as a whole, including the White House, get to know who Allen White is. Get to know what is the proximity of Councilor Massacre to Speaker Fulanti Kufa, who also control the money and the war crime code, so much so that they are accusing everybody on earth. Why did President Baka, if you are so much serious, not consult the Liberian National Bar Association? How about the Female Lawyers Association? Are they all corrupt? So if you're saying that everybody else is corrupt, including Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, why are they creating a split? That's a question, Grace, that you should be asking. None of the organizations that are being accused have created a split, have ever complained formally, but this time they will take on writing the various institutions to make sure that a better taxpayer money go to Liberia for meaningful purposes, or it doesn't go there.
So what you're trying to do is to make sure Allen White is not the one that will be able to be a part of maybe hear this World Economic Crimes Code. And you want to compare that Liberians should be the one to take over. Liberians, do we trust us to take over this thing and make sure that it happens properly? That's the question. Because most of the time, everything that happened in Liberia since, I don't know when this war has happened, nothing has been done strictly when it comes to bringing accountability to people. Everybody know that everything that just be fair. You know, everybody know. Most of the time when Liberians do things, even the government is all corruption and you know, backstabbing. We don't get together to really accomplish what we're supposed to accomplish to change our direction and carry us to the right place for the country to be a better place. And you're thinking that maybe after you go after Allen White, and I will advise that the way you're going after him, I don't think it's going to yield anything right now. You need to be more forceful. The letters and team doesn't. The letters going ahead. You have to strategize another thing so to push harder than the way you're pushing. But if this man is not over this thing, and if they ever complain that you're giving to him, that he's not, and because we just won the World Economic Crime School, my cousin Swanson Elder was butchered in this war. He was butchered. My mom almost died because she had to run because her only crime was she worked with the president. So I just wanted the way you're pushing this thing, because we really need accountability and we need this thing to happen. The way you're pushing it, I think why shouldn't do that? He come in there for the money. In America, when we do things, we get paid. If the man is pushing for the World Economic Council, you're expecting not to get paid? He shouldn't get paid for his work. So my question to you is that, what would you people do? What you're doing beside all the letters you're writing and coming on the platforms and talking, it doesn't add up, it doesn't work. The people are not going to listen to you because some of us have done some of these things for other cases. What else you got to do to push against this man? And if you're pushing against him because you're saying that he's there for the money, are you people willing to go and work for free? And when you're be a part of the World Economic Council, are you people willing to work and not get paid? And if you're working and not get paid, would there not be backstabbing as usual, as Liberian people always doing everything that they do? And that's the reason why the international community don't trust us in anything that we do. So I just being fair, I'm talking for Finade in Lockington, like kind of people are talking for that what we want to know. Because everybody just whining, we understand. But can you people set up a whole or team of social Liberians to really carry on the World Economic Council and accomplish what the people really want to accomplish as far as accountability? That's my question.
Can I say something towards that?
Yeah, go ahead, Martha. Just take
Yes.
like a minute.
Okay, so Grace, it's not as the way you put it. We are not saying that only Liberians should be part of this process. It's impossible for just us. As a matter of fact, what we're actually saying is that we want the implementation and the creation of the War Crimes Court to follow established best practice. This is not the first time, and this is not the first country coming out of crisis where a War Crimes Court was established. We have Sierra Leone just right next door. We have the Special Court for Rwanda operating in Arusha, Tanzania. We are talking about the importance of putting the right processes and structure in place so that as we move forward in the process, we don't have any major setbacks and hurdles. The way it should have happened is that when the national legislature came up with that resolution and the president signed that executive order, immediately the next thing that should have followed was a letter to the United Nations asking the United Nations to please come to Liberia to help us establish the World Economic Crimes Court. That process did not happen the way it should have because Arnold White and his group intercepted it, because Arnold White wanted to be the one to establish the structure so that he has control and so that, he's in control. That's not how it goes, Rose. I'm sorry, Grace. The War Crimes Court project is not something that Liberia will sit down alone as a country and do. They're not going to leave it with just Liberians because we already have issues amongst ourselves because of the polarization of the war. This is why you invite the United Nations to come in, and the United Nations help you structure. And as the United Nations come in, they're going to be vetting and bringing on board credible internationals who've done this work before, who have no suspicion or no iota of conflict of interest, and they can come and help us do this work. Now, you asked the question, do we want Arnold White not to be part of this at all? That is a simplistic question for a complex situation. Arnold White have been talking War Crimes Court, fine. But we are saying Arnold White cannot be the one, Grace, to be behind the appointing of who will serve at our secretariat. You see what happened already. I wish that you're asking very good question, but I wish that you will also ponder and ask yourself, why was Jonathan Massaquoi chosen? What is his criteria? What is his resume and stuff for this? For example, why wasn't it considered Tier 1 Gonglo? Why wasn't it considered Nibali Warner? Why wasn't it any of those established human rights, people who've been pushing for this thing, who are also lawyers, who know the issue, who will be able to articulate issue? What happened to Alvin Jallo? And those kinds of things. That's what we're talking about. We see the corruption going on here because you see, Grace, the way they're doing this, if we don't talk, if we don't fight hard for a reset, the whole thing is going to bungle, it's going to collapse, it's going to be a sham of a process. And at the end of the day, either one or two things will happen. The international community will either get frustrated with us and say, Liberians can never get it right. We're not going to waste our time. Let's go somewhere else where people are serious and you're ready to do this right. Or they're just going to just leave it with Adonware and a few handful of people and they just carry on. And at the end of the day, Adonware has spoken to Prince Johnson, asked him to support him for leniency. As we speak now, know they say, the Aaron Smith and the rest of them, they met with Sonegai Diebo. He's in the TRC report, but they met with him in Boulevard Hotel to try to tell him, oh, if he lie on people and say the other person did it, the other person did that, they will take him off they will take him off the prosecution list. Is that a role? Is that a role of this War Crimes Court Secretariat? No, that's what we're saying. So we're not saying that Adonware may not have something to offer. We're saying we don't like the way he's going about it. That's what we're saying. And we want to reset. It will be good for everybody who means well to come on board and let's do this together. But we cannot be the voice, the moral voice of our society behind transitional justice. And then someone comes from outside and say that he's just going to be a neo-colonialist and whip all of us into submission and run our process and bring in some of the most, questionable individuals to run this process. Grace, the issue of War Crimes Court is same as the issue of the TRC. It has to do with credibility. Credibility yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Credibility is the foremost thing. The process has to be credible for even the victims to be happy and even for the alleged perpetrators to accept it. If the process is not credible, trust me, it's going to be a whole lot of yo-yo when they establish that court because people are going to feel that they were not treated fairly. So you want Prince Johnson to be vice president to Bernard Ure. Ure is on the economic crimes list. Prince Johnson is the most notorious in the TRC report. But then you met with them in Ghana in 2017 to discuss that you want them to form a ticket because you're close to Ure. You think that if Ure and Prince Johnson form a ticket and they win, you will have the lobbying contract for the country. We're not saying that Adonware cannot get paid if he wants. But what we're saying is if that is his aim, let him make it known. Say, look, I can help you. I want War Crimes Court. I can help you lobby for the money. But when the money comes, this is what I'm going to charge. And you'll give me my percentage. That would be, perfect. Instead of just throwing all this ruckus in the process. That's what we're saying.
Madam Washington, in the interest of time, because, I want to be able to give Councilor Jawa. And Grace had a very, like you said, it was a very great, excellent question. But I just want to kind of point a couple of things out real quick. And then I think it's important to kind of note that, if we're to take a look at the money, for example, right? Let's quickly take a look at the money. So I'm going to share something real quick and let me know if you can see the screen. Doc, we can see it? Okay. So we can see that the special court in Sierra Leone, it was supposed to be something that they needed about $75,000 to get started. But when all was said and done, it ended up costing about, it was $75 million. It ended up costing about $300 million. I think there's $300,000 my little assistant put in here. So that was about $300 million spent on that court. Take a look at what happened in Rwanda, for example. They had about 5,800 days of proceedings, and the criminal court in Rwanda, they ended up spending about $2 billion, right? So there's a lot of money involved in here. If you take a look at the International Criminal Court has spent a little over 1.6 billion, right? So it's not just in terms of the money, but I also want to ask a couple of questions. The U.S. is not a party to the Rome Statute. So Councilor Jawa and Massa, you guys probably know this, right? So a lot of the countries that have been hit by international criminal courts have been African countries. Do you think, and I think this probably goes back to what Madam Washington was saying, do you think that it is fair for countries whose citizens are not subject to war crimes to kind of lead the efforts for war crimes in Liberia or in Africa? Is that something that should be African-led as opposed to something that is being led by a foreign national? What do you think, Councillor Chiwe?
So the establishment of the court, America has been involved in assisting to fund the process. Because the African Union you're talking about, the ECOWAS, the other Central African organizations, have not had or do not have the resources, financial resources, to support it, to pay for it, to ensure that the process is free, fair, and transparent. Even Liberia, that is standing up for war and economic crime court, is looking outside, mainly to the United States, to assist in the financing of the process. While that is true that the U.S. is not a party to the Rome Statute, the U.S. have now obstructed war criminals who people accused of war crimes that are supposed to be prosecuted. And so nothing wrong with the U.S. supporting UN-backed war crime court. But to exclude the UN out of it, to exclude civil society organization, to exclude the Liberian National Bar Association, the Female Lawyers Association. And I may just comment, Grace asked a very good question, whether any Liberian would want to go and work for the establishment and the functioning of the war crime code without being paid. That's not an advocacy from anyone. No one has said Dr. White, his participation should be excluded. No one has said that Dr. White, being a lobbyist, want to lobby to ensure that the war crime code is established, should not get paid. But you should not, what the contention is that the proximity of Councillor Massaquoi, Councillor Jonathan Fonati Kofa, Mr. White, and even the misinformation that is coming out of the establishment of the entire process creates a room for people to be afraid. And that, if you function, in the practice of law, we say the lawyer should recuse himself depending upon how close you are to the client before for whom his or her case is about to appear in court. You can make a public record and say, I participated in providing legal services for Mrs. Agnes Reed Taylor. Therefore, I will not be a party to the war crime code secretariat, because in addition to that, you cannot, if you did not recuse yourself, you cannot also, you're not just a lawyer if you file a lawsuit on behalf of those who are accused of committing war crime. How in the world would anybody think that you are fair? So I don't see anything wrong with the U.S. government supporting the process. I think the U.S. government needs to be well informed as to who are those attempting to head the process and for what reason they think they should head the process. Is it because of war victims in Liberia? No. Today, war victims are complaining, 300 of them are complaining that they were tricked to have their organizations and their names, their signature taken by Dr. White. Is that a fair process? Do we expect that war crime code, because President Boubacar has announced it so it will be fair, free, and fair, considering how close Councillor Fonati Kofa is to President Boubacar, considering how Councillor Jonathan Massaquoi is actually has no idea about what is happening? Who runs that code? It might be Councillor Kofa, both as speaker and as lawyer. Liberians should be concerned.
Okay. So, guy?
Yes, thank you again. So, first of all, I wanted to find out from you both. You keep talking about the case, regarding Madam Agnes Taylor, for example. It is my understanding that when Councillor Massaquoi got involved with this case, it was already a civil matter. It wasn't an issue regarding to war crimes or torture or whatever. It's my understanding that after she won the case that was related to torture, war, inhuman treatment, all of that, she decided then to take those people, you know, who she felt malign her character to court. It became a civil matter. That was when Councillor Massaquoi got involved. But I keep hearing you practically misrepresenting that to make it appear to the public that he was representing a war criminal, which is not the case. I don't know if you have any other information besides what I'm saying, but this is what I'm gathering, that it was a civil matter that he was involved with, and it was not at the point in time that she was going through her war, torture, and other charges. Do you like to respond to that?
So we're talking two things here. We're talking two proceedings here, two cases here, separate and distinct. The case I referenced in Great Britain had nothing to do with Councillor Massaquoi. The British prosecutors brought a torture lawsuit against Madam Agnes Reed Taylor. And so the British court heard this case and dismissed the case on ground that in order to prosecute any foreign person before the British court, the person accused to have committed torture or war crime, the warring faction that he or she belongs to must have had perpetual and exclusive administrative control in the area where the crime was committed. So the British court ruled and said, because the British prosecutor, not Councillor Massaquoi, could not establish that indeed the NPFL was in exclusive and perpetual administrative control of the area where it is alleged the torture occurred in Liberia, the court proceeded to dismiss the case for lack of jurisdiction. The court also further said, I'm talking about the British court, the British court also further said that inasmuch as this case is dismissed, Mrs. Agnes Reed Taylor application for permanent residency in Great Britain will not be honored because Mrs. Agnes Reed Taylor is presumed or believed to have committed other crimes that could be prosecuted but not under the British law. Mrs. Taylor appealed that part of it.
So my question is, at what level did Councillor Massaquoi get involved with Madam Rees?
Okay,
Was it a British issue that had to do with war crimes or a civil issue when she decided to sue?
Okay, if you wait for me to conclude the explanation, and if you follow the explanation, you will see I never mentioned Councillor Massaquoi in Great Britain. Never. I never said anything that he was in Great Britain. I said after Mrs. Taylor got a dismissal of the case against her, the reason is clear. Then Mr. Taylor asked the British court to be granted permanent residency. Councillor Massaquoi was nowhere around. You are not part of that case. While the appeal was pending, Mr. Taylor left and went to Liberia. In the process, Madam Massa Washington wrote an article. Mrs. Taylor read the article and said people were calling her all over the place and saying that her name was malign. Therefore, she was going to file an action of damages for defamation of character. That's a civil matter that was pending before the civil law court.
Exactly.
And this is when Councillor Massaquoi filed the lawsuit for Mrs. Agnes Reed Taylor. Nobody is saying that this is a criminal case.
So I just wanted you to set that record straight, because it is my understanding it was a civil case that Councillor Massaquoi was involved with.
So
another thing.
So what's your understanding of a civil case?
I need to stop it. That's for not the only case. Councillor Massaquoi is currently an agent suing on behalf of Gibral Massacre in the civil law court. When you are hired as an agent on a limited basis, you are the agent and everything the agent says. Dr. White, during his testimony, argued that there is a $50 million lawsuit. That's true. There's a $50 million lawsuit filed by Councilor Massacre as the agent for Gibral Massacre in the civil law court. Will he be the one to head the secretariat? Don't you see conflict of interest? I mean, I think the Bar Association should be contacted and investigate him.
But I mean, these are things that are happening all of the time anyway, that lawyers are always investigated. They have a whole panel that are always looking at issues related to lawyers. And I don't think Councilor Massacre works outside of the
But that's
Bar
a wrong
Association. I think he's
premise.
member
That's
of
a
the
wrong
Bar
premise.
Association. So if there's
That's
an
a wrong
issue,
premise. That's a wrong premise
you
for
know,
you to sit here and say
he's a
these
member of
things
the Bar
all the
Association.
time.
I wanted to come
sit and say these
to
things
another
happen all the
issue
time.
about the Allen White situation. And
let him finish. We'll give him a chance for a rebuttal. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, please, you have. Another thing is, you know, while we are discussing, you know, all these issues and the technicalities, we have to also realize that the actual perpetrators of war in this country, they celebrate this kind of attitude. When they see that the entire issue that is going to bring them to book seem to being thwarted and stuff to celebrate. Even as we're on this show, the Prince Johnson, who's one of the major perpetrators of war and violence in the country, has gotten $150,000 in the national budget just for his school. A lot of these guys have budgeted a lot of stuff in the national budget to support their endeavor. When it should be brought to book, we seem to be leaving them and we're focusing on who has the code, who doesn't have the code, which is becoming an issue, which is, for me, a complete distraction to the core issue to bring these people to book in time because they are getting wealthy by the day, by the second. And we're not focusing on that. Now, Dr. Allen White, for example, Dr. Allen White, I think he's still playing a lobbying role. I keep hearing, you know, people, you two talk about, I think he's a advisor for the president or something. I don't think that is true because all of the things I have checked on, he got no advisory role. I think Dr. Allen White is still playing a lobbying role. I think what he wants is to see that this thing is established, perpetrators are brought to book, and probably his history from Sierra Leone. I don't know if there is any way about his work in Sierra Leone that we can even check to that shows that his work in Sierra Leone was not perfect, that his work in Sierra Leone did not bring peace or tranquility to the people of Sierra Leone, that his work in Sierra Leone were biased, it did not bring perpetrators to book. I think we should be tracking Dr. Allen White on his records. On his records. If we're not tracking him on his record, then we've been biased to him. Did he succeed in Sierra Leone? If he succeeded in Sierra Leone, then I think we need him.
They give him an opportunity.
Then I think we need him here. But he's just to wrap up here. But I think he's specifically playing a lobbying role. That in Allen White, I don't think is going to come anywhere around running the day-to-day activity. A Liberian is running it, and that Liberian is one of us. He's a lawyer, and he's Councilor Jonathan Massacre. I think Dr. Allen White is just lobbying in America to ensure that the right things are done, that actually maybe we get the financial support and things from the American government or whoever. And of course, on the ground, our people are just when they hear Dr. Allen White and when they hear a Liberian. I just wanted to put that across. Thank you.
You know,
so that is supposed to be a what now for us? That is supposed to be a downer. We're supposed to be intimidated now that people in Liberia, when they hear about Allen White, they are more what did you say, generate than a Liberian? So does that mean that people like us, who are opinion leaders, who have actually worked our butts off for our people, who have actually sacrificed so much to make sure that our people will get justice, we are supposed to be inconsequential now because Dr. White is supposed to be, what was the word you used? I didn't get it.
You say
No,
so?
not lobbyists. There was
No,
something he said.
Jittery. That when
Yeah,
people get
so,
jittery about him.
so
as
people
compared,
are jittery. Yeah, so because people
Yeah.
are jittery about Alan White, so the rest of us don't matter. Our voices don't matter. Those of us whose family were killed. My brother was chopped in pieces. My brother was chopped in pieces. I have first cousins who were killed. I have 2 first cousins who are still missing. My aunt died waiting for her son to show up. I used to tell her, I said, Auntie, if he was still alive, he would have showed up. She thought he was in a sub-region somewhere. Unfortunately, she passed away years ago. Still, every day she cooked, even if it was dry rice, she left food for him. She said her son could show up. Okay? These are the kind of things we're talking about. So we want we want a war crimes code because we want justice. So when you come and you're trying, so I don't know whether you understand that you're actually making the case for Alan White. Maybe that may not be your intention, but you are making the case for him. And in so doing, you think that you can actually downsize our own concerns or whatsoever. But we are the Liberians, though. At the end of the day, we bear the brunt of what has happened in that country. So let's go back to the main issue. I just wanted to remind you that because
now, Washington, before you go to that issue,
there was something I also talk about his history in Sierra Leone. Do you have any other view about him working in Sierra Leone, and maybe there were some things that went wrong while Dr. Alan White was serving Sierra Leone? Because I think we should track him on that.
So
you go and do your homework. You go and do your homework. Some of us have done our homework. So you seem to not really know who Alan White is. So I will appeal to you to go and do your homework. Go and do your homework.
We'll get to that in a second. I'm glad this conversation is really getting heated, but I want to share something, and I think it's going to kind of touch on what you are mentioning, Madam Washington, and also kind of answer a question for Tugha, because in terms of who's going to be leading the effort. Doc, you able to share my screen so I can play a little segment? Let me see if I can play this segment. You can hear it, okay? So let me just mute this.
Our funding for the Global Magnitsky Act sanctions in Liberia and other activities. We support the World Economic Crime Code for Liberia and demand justice and accountability for all Liberians. Councillor Jerome Verdier, our executive director, was the former chairman of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of the Republic of Liberia and the major author of the 2009 recommending the court establishment. Nevertheless, we have received plethora information regarding varieties of NGOs expressing interest to participate in the Liberian War and Economic Crime Code process. These NGOs with my forensic investigative background are being involved with witnesses recruitment, coaching, and paying them to make false statements against war actors. Their process.
So let me pause it there a second. So this was in a direct attack on the NGOs on the ground.
Yes.
This was what Representative Jim McGovern said they shouldn't do. You are asking in terms of other NGOs participating. This hearing was meant to look for a way forward, but this was what this group came in to do. But we will come to that. Let me I want to get to something he said real quick.
They will obtain the phone number of the targeted.
Sorry, bandwidth.
It's funny.
Yeah, sorry guys, a little bit of bandwidth issue, but let me start sharing. Let me try it again because I want you to really listen to this. Let me try it.
Persons, social media information for identification purposes, and addresses. Upon obtaining this information, they will prepare a fraudulent affidavit on an oath for the person to be arrested.
You hear that? Fraudulent.
Dara Stewart An insider witness provided this information while I was visiting in Liberia, conducting investigation. Dara Twere was
I don't want to laugh at him, right woman, just looking at him.
Coached, paid by ability, flown to Accra, where he met the British Metropolitan Police team headed by one Gary Tittley. I can provide his information. And he made false statement against Mrs. Agnes Reed Taylor for her rearrest. After that,
The kind of woman looking at him.
Mr. Mr. Warner
He's tired looking at him.
and Mr. Ability provided false statement that Agnes Reed Taylor in 1990 gave instruction, two different statements. The first one said she shot and killed Amos Bond. The second one, she gave instruction for Amos Bond.
Let me pause it right there. And Doc, I'm going to stop sharing it, and I want to give. So this was an orchestrated attack on the local NGOs in terms of why one group should lead the efforts and others. The woman you see that was sitting to the right of him, her name was, I think, Elizabeth. I'll show it.
Awesome.
Right. She's part of Human Rights Watch, right? So she's part of this whole group representing all of the NGOs, because everybody should be seeking a common interest to get this thing done. But I want to turn it over to you, Madam Washington and Councilor Jewett. This part that went on, what's your take on that in terms of his forensic investigation?
Can I come in?
Oh, yeah. Madam Washington, if you would, please.
No. Let the councillor, speak.
Okay. Alvin Smith, representing Councillor Jerome Vardia and his international law group, speaks as if there was a trial in Great Britain and trial on its merit. For you to discredit a witness, I said it earlier when we started, in a trial proceeding, that witness must have had the opportunity to take the witness stand, testify, directed, examine, and cross-examine in order to get that amount of volume of information. To say the first information was that Agnes Reed Taylor shot Mr. Bond. And then later on, it was upon her order that Mr. Bond was shot. But instead, Mr. Bond is alive in Great Britain. That is a testimony that must be given during regular trial. This case in Great Britain never went to trial. So you can tell that Alvin Smith is lying to his teeth. It was funny to me because the Human Rights Watch woman just continued to look at him.
Unbelievably.
Look at him, estimated what is it the guy's talking about. And I would blame Councilor Jerome Vardia, why would he have somebody like this representing his organization that cannot hardly read the document before him? It's telling stories that people can easily tell that he's lying. He has the evidence. And that's what people should take to say that Dr. White is serious. Look, if Dr. White had just grouped the Human Rights Organization, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and had a comprehensive and holistic meeting, what we're having today, instead of accusing certain group of human rights organizations, would not have happened. Today, the War and Economic Crime Code will move forward without anybody having a worry about what's happening. But can anybody think that, as Mr. Tucker said, let's examine on his record? That's the only record he has? How about his record testifying before Congress? He didn't tell you that this guy is interested in commercializing the entire process?
Not in the interest of let me hold you there 1 second. I want to share one more thing to show you why he was saying what it is he's saying. So, Doc, if you can bear with me real quick, I want these guys to make the closing argument.
Take your time. Yeah, take your time. Okay.
So let me just present this screen and share this screen. And if you can just share it with the audience, I will go ahead and play this part. So, Madam Washington, I want everybody to listen to this.
In my conclusion, with evidence available to the International Justice Group and court records. Arlene Warner, a Swiss lawyer, executive director, Civitas Maxima, Geneva, Switzerland, should not come anywhere near this court. Liberia.
Oh my God.
Mr. Hassan Belete, executive director, Global Justice Research Project, should not come anywhere near this court.
Look at Trump.
Center for Justice and Accountability, California, Switzerland, they cannot come anywhere near this court.
Wow.
Ignorance is something.
Ambassador Bevan Schack
Look at that.
is conflicted. Councillor Jerome Verdier wrote her a letter. You cannot be on the board of these NGOs. Wow. Who are conflicted in lying on people. You have to recruit yourself. She recruits herself on people, but she's still affiliated with.
Now you hear what he's saying.
It's dangerous.
That statement by itself is very dangerous because he's saying the U.S. ambassador that deals with these things is lying.
Yeah, she's conflicted.
She's conflicted and she's lying. And so if the people out there don't know who she is, let me see if I can share this last part, and I will turn it back over to you, Toga and Grace, so you guys can come in real quick. But I want to Frank, Doc, I want to make my this thing so everybody can have an opportunity, because I want to go back to Grace. Grace said something that is so important, which is what this hearing was all about, the way forward. If not Allen White, Ruben, and the other group, then who? But I want to share something real quick. So Doc, let me just share this one to kind of put things in perspective. So let me do this. This was an article that was written by Michael Rubin. So this is like what they're sort of pursuing, right? He wrote an article in the Washington Examiner where they have succeeded in attacking Human Rights Watch. So he said for his justice group, the score was 1. For Human Rights Watch, the score was 0. Remember now, we're talking about justice for war crimes victims in Liberia. This man is keeping score in terms of the groups that he's taking down. He's keeping score. Bear in mind, Representative Jim McGovern came out and said, look, presenting allegations that are not substantiated in a public forum, and in which you're targeting people who have no voice, no opportunity to defend themselves. He said that is the exact opposite of human rights. So in terms of who that woman is, let me just go right back real quick and talk to you about who this woman is. And this is also another strategy in terms of silencing by suing Civitas Maxima and some other people. But we'll come back to that in a second. So this is what Councillor Joel was touching on. We will come to that in a second. But I want to, so this group is going after all of the different civil society organizations in Liberia. They're disenfranchising them. There's roughly
And individuals. Individuals.
These are the groups they're targeting. So I know we're trying to seek justice for the victims, but what is going on here? This is what I didn't understand. I'm trying to understand, is there some underhanded stuff going on here that we're now making the victims sort of collateral damage? Because when he said Beth Van Schack, right? Let me just go back to her real quick. And Yesenia Martin was brilliant in this whole thing. I mean, this woman was just absolutely the best. When he attacked that lady I just showed, and let me just go back one real quick. Who exactly is she? This is a highly respectable woman. She is the U.S. ambassador. I think I probably went too far back. But she is a well-respected ambassador. And when Jim McGovern said, there seems to be a clearly coordinated smear job, if you will. Several of the witnesses are going to attack certain human rights defenders and organizations. And he said one will go further and attack the entire human rights movement in Liberia, as well as Ambassador Beth Van Schack. Is that what we're seeing happening? So let me turn it over to you, Madam Washington.
I mean, absolutely. That's exactly what is happening. And like I keep saying again, it's all part of Alan White's playbook. I'm one of those who a bogus lawsuit was initiated against. Never mind that there was no due process for me. And I'm saying this, Toka, I want you to listen, please listen, carefully, please, Papa. In the first place, let me just establish the connection between Jebel Massaquoi, Alan White, and then the connection to Jonathan Massaquoi, because you don't seem to think there's any real issues there. Jebel Massaquoi worked with Alan White. When Alan White was on the special code, he was chief investigator of the special code of Sierra Leone. Jebel Massaquoi was one of the most notorious perpetrators. And Alan White then processed him, and in the process, they became friends. Jebel Massaquoi was supposed to be in a safe house in Sierra Leone, and then but we heard he was in Liberia. But even before the safe house issue, during the war, they had RUF soldiers interchangeably fighting in Liberia, and Liberian soldiers and PFL soldiers fighting in Sierra Leone. So Jebel Massaquoi, who is known as Injure Gabriel, he's known as Injure Gabriel. When he used to be fighting in Liberia, my colleague John Stewart said on another talk show that at a point in time when he was fighting down waterside around where they have the new bridge, it was this Yeke Koruba, who is now in the House of Representatives. Jebel Massaquoi excesses were so gross. Yeke Koruba had to come to talk to him to take him away from there because it was so bad. So Jebel Massaquoi was in Liberia fighting, killing Liberians. His name was Injure Gabriel. And that name was significant because as Injure Gabriel, Injure Gabriel was the, the visiting angel, the announcer for the breaking news. So in the Bible, Injure Gabriel was the one who brought the news to Mary that you will have a son and his name would be Jesus. So Injure Gabriel was the one, he would bring the death news to the victims and say, today you're going to die. Okay? So this is the guy that the case. Then Alan White wrote an affidavit when Injure Gabriel Jebel Massaquoi case was going on in Switzerland. Alan White wrote an affidavit of support for Jebel Massaquoi, why he should not be found guilty, why he's not, he admitted that yes, he was a perpetrator, but he's not rehabilitated, blah, 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 blah. So after that case was lost, okay, Alan White recommended that Jebel Massaquoi would sue. Who does he recommend to sue Secretary Maximum on behalf of Jebel Massaquoi? The same Jonathan Massaquoi. So you can see the link there. Okay, it's a spider web, and Alan White is a spider spinning this web. So you can see Alan White and Jebel Massaquoi link from the special code in Sierra Leone. Then Alan White and Jebel Massaquoi again working on this case to help Jebel Massaquoi fight this case. Then to sue now, Alan White links Jebel Massaquoi to Jonathan Massaquoi. Okay, same thing happened with me. The case, my case, why it was a silver case, but it was a silver case deriving from a criminal case in Sierra Leone, in Switzerland, in the first place, in London rather. In the first place, you must understand that Agnes Taylor did not win any case. The case was not even heard. The judges then threw the case out on the basis of a technicality that Councillor Jewell, so eloquently explained. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not going to even go there. So the case did not go to court where she won the case, where it was established that people lie on her. That's not the truth. It was on the basis of a technicality that the judges threw the case out. As it is, that case is still open. Any other human rights organization that have any other thing on her, or if the defense can go back and sort out those primary issues that they have, they can still resue Agnes Taylor. When she left from there, she came to Liberia. I wrote an article. I'm a journalist. I wrote an article, and she accused me after writing an article. The article stemmed from that case. I wrote an article about that case, stating the case and everything, and so she sued me. Her lawyer was the same Massaquoi who is now on the, who's heading, quote unquote, the secretariat. Okay, I'm not going to go in the nitty gritty of it because the bit of error is before the Supreme Court, so I'm going to respect the Supreme Court. So you can see the dots are connected. The web is being spun, and Alan White is the spider here.
Let me switch it over to Doc. Doc, there's been a lot to sort of digest and take apart. I don't know what anything that grabbed your attention? I'm sorry, Toga. I'll come back to you in a second, brother.
Yes, Professor. This is what grabbed my attention. If you have somebody who's advocating for war court in Liberia and accusing your chief funder, ambassador, the American ambassador, you're accusing her that she must not come nowhere near the court. I see it as a major issue. I see it as a problem. I see it as the worst thing that I've ever heard, because this lady is representing the United States government. They are supporting her. They sent her to Liberia. And you are coming up to say that she should not come near the court and accusing other people, reputable people, very highly respected people. No wonder why Representative McGreevy got upset and said, I mean, because you just from listening to this, I know Alvin very well, and I'm not. That's what I want to say, but to get to that point of condemning all the groups in Liberia, all the groups, that one is even worthy of being part of that. I think it saddens me. Honestly, it saddens me. It's disgraceful when I'm listening to him talking. It's disgraceful, and I could just sit there and deduce that he was lying. I could just deduce the whole thing was made up. It was complete Liberian method lie. Scanned thing they put together, and that's why, because it's hard to lie. It's hard to take truth out of a lie. It's difficult. When you get to the right place, you get so confused because you're lying. It's hard to even turn it around and make it look like true. And this is what I saw here. This is exactly what I saw.
Toga?
Yes. So one of the things I've also noticed, and I can vividly say that, I think the attack on the ambassador and the attack on other institutions, that was below the belt. My point is, was it coming from the official sources of the War and Economic Crimes Code? Is that coming from even Councillor Massaquoi? All right. I don't think it is these people that are making the decision for Bouaka to make the appointment. They went to Capitol Hill in the US or so to do lobbying. I think they went beyond what they should have done. Basically, what the Liberian people wanted to hear from them is to make sure seek the US government support for the establishment of War and Economic Crimes Code in Liberia. It was not basically to be attacking people here, there, and yeah. That wasn't necessary at all. All right. And I don't think that's coming from the official source, which is, for example, Councillor Massaquoi. Since Councillor Massaquoi was appointed, I don't think he's released any statement in this regard that he won't work with XYZ. I don't think so. All right. So they can be seen like they were speaking for Councillor Massaquoi, or their position represents that of Councillor Massaquoi. I don't think he gave them any authority to have gone over there and spoken for him. That's how I see it. These are people, who are just doing their own thing, and it can be border on the integrity of Councillor Massaquoi.
Okay.
From a serious standpoint,
Larry, can I say something quickly?
Sure. Well, I want to play this last clip, the last one.
Okay.
To follow up on, and Toga, I'm totally with Toga what he just said. I don't think this in any way.
Yeah, but Larry, I really want you to play that Prince Johnson tape. Is there any reason why you won't play it?
I don't have it. I'm on a different computer. That's why I was asking Lofa or somebody else to play it, because I don't have it.
It's good to play. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm on a completely different computer. So I hope one of the other guys can share it. Let me play this last clip, and then I would try to see if I can get my hands on it. Let me play this last clip.
As I heard, worry me greatly, especially some of the attacks against human rights organizations. And I just want to know more about, like, for example, Mr. Smith, I'm trying to learn more about your organization, the International Justice Group, and I don't know if it's a 501c3 or if it's who funds it, or I couldn't find it on the web page. So I have some questions on that, and I think Dr. White, I think there's some confusion as to whether you formally work for the U.S. government in your capacity, and you'll clarify that, I'm sure, for the record. But again, there's a lot here, and I regret that I have to go, but I thank you for your indulgence. And
So he's trying to understand, like what Tuka just said, there were people being attacked, and he was trying to say this is not the way forward. You know, I think everyone needs to keep focused, keep their eyes on the prize. And he didn't understand what I think somebody mentioned earlier. What role Dr. White plays. Is he a lobbyist? Is he working for the Liberian government, or who exactly he is? So again, I'm just here like everybody else trying to learn and understand what is going on. Why do we have one group testifying and attacking another group who weren't there to defend themselves? So
can I just give you
okay. I wanted to give Tuka a chance, and then I'll give it back to you.
No, I mean, the councilor can go ahead. I just wanted to put that across, you know.
Okay.
But yeah, you can go ahead. Yeah, sure.
So, I think when I started watching the testimony for the first time, I felt that the white group, and sadly, Councilor Jerome Baudia, who is a colleague of mine, who publicly associate with things that are troubling. And if you ask what's going on here, money is going on here. Money. If you notice that the other human rights group, the Female Lawyer Association, Liberian National Bar Association, the Human Rights Community, the Civil Rights group in Liberia, none of them attack Mr. White of not being a lobbyist, should not be a lobbyist. None of them said that. But you find that this group is narrowing down who can receive the $54 or more million. And it's a shame. It's a shame that Liberians who are thought you have some education, have some experience, will sit behind this guy and be dragged to their death. To make statement like I'm not talking about Smith, because for Smith, he basically was reading something that somebody wrote for him that he had a problem reading. But at the end of the day, this should have been a holistic conference where Congress is clearly informed, where the next step would be that Congress is able to pass some specialized budget to fund the human rights, to fund the war crime code in Liberia. But it is not it. It is beside the point. It is about how much money will come in. It is about how much Dr. White will be part of it. It is about the other human rights organizations, including the U.S. ambassador, to be criminalized. This is a group that's supposed to be assisting to ensure that State Department working with Congress to get the money for us to have a human rights, war crime code in Liberia, and you're accusing her of saying that she's on board with all of the other human rights organizations. So she's conflicted. Having Smith can say that she's conflicted. That's why, it was funny to me. I saw the human rights woman would not bat her eyes. She's just looking the man in the face up and down. I said, oh my goodness, this guy is into trouble. The next step, Liberians should be able to see that, look, there is, we hope that President Bouaga will take some of these information that are being passed on to withdraw the appointment. Or Councilor Massaquoi himself should recuse himself. He presumptive to those accused of war crimes, and his association with Councilor Fonati Kofa, it's just troubling. It's just troubling. Nobody was testifying for him over there. But isn't it Dr. White the first person to recognize him from the international community? Followed by, I think, Representative Chris Smith has been misled to also endorse Councilor Massaquoi. I mean, to be frank, this guy has zero understanding what's going on. So what we're looking for, putting somebody there who would be, running between the aisle, or somebody who is able to communicate and get the funding and other processes to go on. I think Liberians should be concerned.
So what is the way forward? Because that's what this hearing was supposed to be about. So if it's not Alan, and this goes back to what Grace was asking, right? Mm-hmm. If it's not Alan White, if it's not his group of people who are disenfranchising the Liberian NGOs on the ground, what is the way forward? What should be the way that this should get done?
I don't think the group that was accused is asking for Dr. White to be excluded. And that the group that testify is also to be excluded. And it'll be like the Solomon and the two women who had a baby. One person said, the baby is mine. The other one said, the baby is mine. The other one said, well, let's divide the baby into half. You carry one piece and I'll carry another piece. The real owner of the real mother of the baby said, no, go ahead, give her the live baby. In this situation, Liberia needs to have War and Economic Crime Court established. Liberian will be willing to sit at the same table to discuss the way forward to ensure that people who had the War and Economic Crime Court are credible. I mean, man, if you have somebody like Mobile Molu coming out and releasing press statement for you, you must have some problem, because Mobile Molu was sitting down for 6 whole years, said nothing. Mobile Molu resigned as chairman of CDC. Less than a week, who he talked to, who he didn't talk to. He also resigned from CDC. And is it because maybe something is promising him, or their money sounds too big, or what is it?
We don't have proof on that.
1 week therefore, then he going ahead and releasing a statement to support Councilor Massaquoi. What should Councilor Massaquoi need?
Right.
If he's competent and able to do the job, why are you looking for support from outside?
Okay, let me give it over to Doc Peabody, and go ahead, Doc.
I'm still shocked, and the whole thing about avoiding other Liberians and not getting them to come, that I just want to know what is Alan White interest in Liberia, and I know it's financial. Let's be honest here. And the appointment by President Bouaka, as he stated, has not been reported to the Liberian people that Alan White has been appointed as an advisor to him. That is also troubling. So there's a lot going on. My concern has always been government official, because I've been to Liberia and seen government officials, and they talk about Alan White has a list. We saw the other day he went to the House the Senate, and they were all concerned what he was doing there. He was sitting in the back, and so it's really troubling. And I hope that, we all want the war and economic crime court, but let it be done in a very transparent way so that Liberian people can see the justice. Because if it's not done in a transparent way, definitely it's not going to take place. It's not going to happen. So pretty much that's my comment, Professor. I don't know what do you have additional question? I know we'll soon be wanting other hearings.
Yeah, I think it's time for everybody to give their closing argument.
Yes, but it has been very fascinating to see Councilor Jay Ware and to see Miss Washington. It's really, you brought a lot to the show today.
Yeah. So let me start with you, Madam Washington. Can you give us your closing argument on this whole debate?
Yeah, sure. So I will just do a short, like maybe 1-2 sentences of each point. I'm so sorry that Grace is not here, and also Toga, because my points will be, making an attempt to provide some clarification on some of the issues that they raised, especially the questions that Grace raised. But then also Toga keeps coming back to the issue of credibility of Massaquoi. In the first place, I'm a journalist / clinical social worker. That's what I do / human rights advocate. If anybody gave me a job to go and be the Director General of the JFK Medical Center, I would turn it down, because I will be out of my professional arena for which I've been trained and have the experience. So Massaquoi, like I said, as far as I'm concerned, he's a random lawyer who was chosen by Alan White and the rest of them to go to the Secretariat, of course, with Fanati Kofa behind it. I'm so disappointed with the speaker. With Fanati Kofa behind it. So he goes there, he's representing the interests of the International Law Group and also Alan White. Now, he's never, like I said before, he's never been involved in any transitional justice process. The War Crimes Court is a transitional justice process. The TRC is a transitional justice process. Memorialization, all of those things are all transitional justice processes. This lawyer here now who is supposed to be heading the secretariat of one of the biggest transitional justice process, which is the establishment of the World Economic Crimes Court, has zero experience, not even a single day, in any of these transitional justice processes. He's never taken part. He doesn't have the education. He doesn't have the knowledge. Nothing. The only thing he has is he's connected to the Speaker Fanatic Kofa and he's connected to Adam White. So Adam White wants to make sure that he posts his men at the level of the secretariat. So when Adam White is raising the funding, when it comes to this, he's the overseer. It comes to the secretariat. The both of them can manage it. Again, I don't have any proof of that. I'm just surmising. Then this issue of credibility. Master Quack cannot have credibility when you engage in bogus clandestine lawsuits against other people and tell lies, and you don't use the law in the proper manner. It's called fraud. So you cannot have a credibility. This Alvin Smith, who's accusing everybody under the sun, all the human rights people, the real human rights people who be engaging in human rights activity, including the War Crimes Ambassador, the United States War Crimes Ambassador to the United Nations. This woman, Beth Van Syte, is actually the United States of America ambassador to the International War Crimes Court at the UN. That the kind of woman he messing with like that the kind of woman he disrespecting and whatnot. Alvin Smith said he's a war crimes investigator. Again, we should take him on his word and investigate that. But I just want to say here, this Alvin Smith and the rest of them who accusing everybody else of impropriety or whatsoever, Alvin Smith is the one. I challenged him on my Facebook page when he went to Congress and had a hearing. I told him, Alvin Smith, we know that you are a member of Samuel Doe military. In 1990, you were in uniform and you were active in the Singa area. Now we know that the Singa area was another death camp. They had a Lutheran Church massacre. They killed several persons there, Mr. Watson and his family. They killed the Brunel, Solo Brunel and his family. I knew Solo was a friend of mine. And Mims Gooding, all these people were killed. So much massacre and murders took place in the Singa area. And Alvin Smith, as an AFL soldier in the military at that time, was hanging in that area. Now, I'm not accusing him of killing people, but he was in that area. So maybe we need to start investigating him. Also, his father, General Smith, his foster father, General Smith, was the first general who was sent by Samuel Doe to go up to Nima County to find out what was happening there. It is my understanding that Alvin Smith accompanied him. Now, I would like to believe that General Smith is an honorable man, but then when that battalion left, the Nima County people cried foul. They said their children were put in the well. Some of the people were killed. Some of the people disappeared. Some of the children were killed when Alvin Smith then left from there. So Alvin Smith wants to be insulting everybody, accusing everybody of impropriety. Maybe he needs to come and tell us, yes, he was a military man. Nothing is wrong being in the military. But during that time when the AFL was also a faction, he needs to tell us what happened. Where was he exactly? He was in uniform. He was in the Singa area. What was his assignment? And, what does he know about some of these things that happened? And then also, who gave this International Justice Group or Aluwa and his group, who gave them the authority to determine which group or which individual will be a part of this process, of this national Liberian process? Who gave them the authority? It would be very good because Alvin Smith is speaking like he has that authority. This person will not be there. This person will be nowhere there. This person will not be there. Okay, Mr. Man, who gave you the authority to determine who can be a part and who cannot be a part? Okay, my last point there is just for the sake of information, breaking news. I received just before I came on the show, I received credible information close to President Boyka's office that he has invited the United Nations to please help assist with the funding for the War Crimes Court and to also assist to support the process. Now, I have not seen that letter, and I don't know whether he's going to make it public, but I would think that the President's office should please make that letter public. If indeed, I would want to believe this person, this source, if indeed President Boyka has written the UN asking for support, please make that letter public. We need transparency in this human rights thing. Please make the letter public because we want to know what kind of invitation it was. Did you write the UN like all the other war crimes court that happened in Rwanda and Sierra Leone, asking them to please come and take over and help establish the office? Or did you just write them telling them that you have established a secretariat, you want them to please help fund it or whatsoever? So the content of the letter could be different. This is why I'm using this opportunity now to call upon the president of the office of the president to please make public that invitation or that letter that he has sent to the United Nations. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Jayware, you may give your closing. And
I think the simplest way forward is for President Boakai to invite the relevant groups to be able to discuss how this war crime code is to be established, and that having heard and seeing what's going on with statements of support here, statements of support there, I thought this should have been a professional body to ensure that the war crime, activities are prosecuted. So it will make sense as the older person in the country and the oldest president ever elected as president to withdraw his nomination and have a roundtable discussion. We commend him for being able to have the courage to say the war crime code should be established, but it should be done properly, and that the victims should not be considered or should not be treated with disdain and disrespected by having people choosing what they wish to do and how much money they wish to make on their blood. I will encourage President Boakai to see the need to reconsider and let Liberia move forward. All the noise is not needed when people are asking who can be and who cannot be. It makes no sense to me. And I think it's terrible, as the representative said, for people to be accusing people publicly without proof.
thank you, sir. Professor, thank you so much. It was great to have you, Council. I hope you come back on the show again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. And I hope we don't forget the victims in this whole thing. The purpose of the war crimes court. We got to remember the victims and bring justice to the victims. So I just want to say thanks, Doc, for all the help in making this happen. So thanks, everyone.
Professor, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
And hopefully we'll talk about the new lobby that were appointed recently by President Boakai. Hopefully Monday we'll talk about that. But Henry, come on. I want to thank everybody for joining us. To all our viewers, thank you. We'll be back here Monday, break 4:45 on Monday. We'll be back here. Thank you and have a great weekend. Henry,
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Henry, where are you?
Henry's sitting in the back somewhere.
Henry, you want me to end this? I want him to come on before I end this. All right, we're not getting him, so I guess we're just gonna end.
All right, Doc.
All right, Prof. Take care.
Okay, guys.
Bye-bye.